Happy Wednesday, everyone, and welcome to Testa and Neal Keep It Real right here on WWSU 106.9 FM or our YouTube channel. However, you're hanging out with us, we do appreciate it. My name's Shea Neal, alongside with me, Parker Testa. Hope you're all having a great Wednesday afternoon. We appreciate you, like I said, hanging out with us here from 1 to 3. A lot of show to get into today. We're going to do a conference preview here in hour number 1. We're doing the MAC today, Parker, and I know this conference hits close to home for a lot of people in the Dayton area because we have a lot of, quote unquote semi-local teams where you have the OU Bobcats, the Toledo Rockets, the Miami Redhawks, the Kent State Golden Flashes, even some people from your neck of the woods in Indiana, the Ball State Cardinals. So a lot of teams in the MAC that a lot of people in this area have ties to. So I'm excited to get into this one. And what I love about the MAC, Parker, is there's like 4 or 5 teams that could win this conference easily. And I don't know how I'm going to pick a favorite.
Yeah, I don't either. This conference is fun for sure. Ball State won the MAC last year, so they have a lot of competition. Ohio is always good in the East, and then like you said, Toledo Rockets, Central Michigan, Western Michigan. So lots of fun teams here in this conference.
Yeah, and then so that's going to be hour number 1. I'm excited to get into that. We'll break down all the teams in the MAC. We'll let you know who we think's going to win, who are some players to watch out for. Get you ready for MAC football, which is right around the corner at the end of the month. So hour number 2, I had a lot of fun with the MLB starting pitchers tier list yesterday, so I wanted to do another one, and we're going to do MLB second baseman today, Park. So this one will be interesting because we have, I thinking about it, I don't know if there's a superstar second baseman in the MLB. I mean, DJ LeMahieu, maybe. Ozzy Albies is probably getting close. But I can't think of a guy that's, just above and beyond the better than the rest. But there are a lot of really good second basemen that I'm excited to talk about. Adam Frazier's had quite the year. DJ LeMahieu, like I said. Jose Altuve, Jake Cronenworth, Jeff McNeil, Mike Moustakas, Colton Wong, and, some other guys on this list as well. Tommy Edman, Ozzy Albies, a lot of guys to get into. I'm really, really excited for it. And I mean, maybe the one that I completely forgot about because I thought he was a center fielder, but I guess they moved him back to second base, Ketel Marte. I'm a huge Ketel Marte fan.
Yeah, I am too. There's so many teams, in this league that are they're kind of average at the second base spot. Like you said, they don't really have a set in stone star. So it's really going to be interesting to see, who goes where on this tier list.
Do I put a guy in superstar? That's what I'm wondering right now. I'm trying to think. The only guy that I think I'd put in superstar is Altuve, but is he good enough to put in superstar? Or is this the first ever tier list that we do where nobody's in the top tier? We'll find out. I mean, I got to think about it for a little bit. So, also, at some point today, if we get a chance, I'd love to talk about, the Lakers, entirely new roster. Carmelo Anthony's going to LA. Kendrick Nunn, Horizon League alum, is going to LA to be the backup point guard. They also bring in guys like Malik Monk, as well as a really nice signing they made today as well in re-signing Taylor Horton-Tucker. So this Lakers team is going to be very experienced. They have 8 guys on this roster that are 32 years of age or older. But they have a lot of depth. It seems like they already have more depth than they did a season ago. And if they stay healthy, and by they, I mean LeBron and AD, if they stay healthy, I think they've done enough to this roster where they're right back at the top of the West with teams like Golden State, with teams like the Clippers, with teams like, Denver and Utah and Dallas and stuff like that. I think the Lakers put themselves in a really good spot.
I do too, and they're making all these different additions. They added Westbrook, a few other guys that coming in too. They added Carmelo. So this roster is getting better. It's getting older, but it's getting better. And like you said, they added Malik Monk and some others as well today. So the Lakers are certainly fighting to get back to that championship, caliber roster that they had.
They sure are. A lot of show to get into today. I'm really, really excited. Parker, this will be interesting. Your Colts, if we get time to talk about this, we will. But your Colts have a little bit of a question mark at quarterback now. And, the guy who played quarterback for the Colts last year said he wouldn't be totally against coming back. So we'll get into that a little bit too. So a big show for you today. We appreciate you hanging out with us. But let's get started. I'm going to instantly share my screen. So if you're following along with us on YouTube, you will get to see us preview the MAC. And I'm really excited to do this conference. Like I said, I know a lot of people don't Don't think of the MAC as one of the top tier conferences in college football. Maybe it's not. But especially if you're in the Midwest, Parker, this conference is about as fun as it gets for a mid major.
Yeah, it is, and there are so many talented players in this conference that have the ability to be Power Five guys, but and they just dominate this conference. So certainly, so many talented teams, so many talented coaches in this conference as well.
Absolutely. We're going to start off with talking about some of the top players in this league. We'll get into that obviously a little bit more when we start breaking down teams. But a guy I really wanted to make sure that we highlighted in this league, Parker, there's quite a few pretty good quarterbacks in this league, but there's definitely a far and away best one, and that's Dustin Crum out of Kent State. This guy not only is the best quarterback in this conference and probably the favorite to win Conference Player of the Year, he's also the first quarterback out of the MAC since maybe Big Ben to be a legit NFL prospect.
Yeah, and he he looks fantastic. He's a very strong player at Kent State for him. He throws the ball very well. He's just a talented player for sure.
He is. So like you said, Parker, Ball State, the defending champs, but there's a lot of teams here that could make some noise. Phil Steele, just for example, Phil Steele has 5 teams that he has tied for first, which means he thinks all 5 of these teams could win the league. Western Michigan, Toledo, Ball State, Ohio, and Kent State. But that's not, taking anything away from some of these other teams. Northern Illinois has got a huge reputation for having solid seasons in the MAC. Big time, offense. There's a big offense at Bowling Green. Miami's improved every single year over the last couple of years. Really, this is maybe the first conference that we've talked about in a while, Parker, maybe even all summer, that doesn't really have, a far and away worst team or worst 2 teams in the conference. Pretty much all of these teams in this league, with maybe the exception of one, are really, really close in talent.
Yeah, they are, and it's, I don't think there's a league that's, too much closer than this. This one's a lot of fun. There are 5 teams that, off the top of my head, that are, contenders for winning this conference. And there are a few, 2 and 3 more that aren't far behind them.
They're not. Let's get started with the West, the MAC West, and the quote unquote favorite in the MAC West, according to Phil Steele, is not the defending champions Ball State. It's the Western Michigan Broncos. The Broncos are led by head coach Tim Lester in his 5th season. They went 4-2 a season ago, and they are led by their quarterback Caleb Ellaby, who's one of the best young quarterbacks in this conference, just a sophomore, but as a true freshman last season. Well, and I should say as a true freshman in limited playing time last season, threw for 1,100 yards and 4 touchdowns. But he's a big playmaker. He's had a lot of really solid football in his career. In his senior year of high school, had 18 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. He was 3rd team All-MAC a season ago. And he's going to be in charge of putting this offense together. And not only does he have a solid running back in Ladarius Jefferson, who I like a lot, he's the transfer from Michigan State, but he also has some solid receivers. They have Sky Moore, who's a sophomore, 5'9", but he's got blazing speed. And then we also have 2 really experienced guys that have a lot of size, and Jalen Hall, the 6'4" junior, and Bryce Nunley, their 6'2" senior, who's definitely the leader of the receiver room.
Yeah, he is. This Bronco team looks like a lot of fun. Tim Lester's done a fantastic job here. And Ellaby looks like a strong player. He threw for 1,700 yards in 6 games last year. So he was very strong here at Western Michigan. And then you have the back Jefferson the junior. He's 6'1", 223, so he's a bowling ball of a back. And then these receivers look very strong. I love the size on Jalen Hall. He can go up and get it. He's a bit of a thinner frame, but he can go up and get it when he needs to.
He absolutely can. And just a thing I've noticed right off the jump, Parker, is some of these guys that are making big impacts on this roster are transfers, and he's doing a great job getting these transfers. They're starting running back from Michigan State. One of their receivers was from Chattanooga. One of their top defensive players in the secondary, A.J. Thomas from Illinois. Another one of their top defensive players went to let me see if I can find it. I put myself on the spot. But I believe it said Florida State. Let me see if I can find it. I don't remember. But I'm just saying, some guys that contribute on this football team are going to be starters and are going to be big impact players for this football team coming from other schools. And that's a credit to coach Lester and what he's been able to do, and selling the brand to guys who maybe want some more playing time or what a chance to shine, and they're going to get that opportunity at Western Michigan.
Yeah, they are, and there are so many, like you said, there's lots of balance on this roster to where there's not an overabundance of upperclassmen or lowerclassmen. It's a pretty pretty spread out, balanced group. You have a seniors at on the defensive line. Holly, the nose tackle, and then you have Fayad, the senior. You have a senior at the as one of the defensive backs, and Coleman, and then a senior at strong safety in Bryson Garner. So very very widespread balance here on this roster.
Absolutely. The offensive line, I feel like we haven't, we've been guilty at times of not giving the offensive line and the love that it deserves throughout the summer. We sometimes just kind of skip to skill position players, but I will throw out that this offensive line has quite a bit of experience. 2 seniors, 2 juniors, and a true freshman at left guard is the exception. But this offensive line, I think, is going to be okay because they have Mike Caliendo, the senior, 6'4", 300 pounds. He's the starting center. He was at left guard for 3 seasons, moved to center, and he was dynamite at center. First team all conference a season ago. He's not just the best offensive lineman on this football team, Parker. He's probably the best center in the MAC.
Yeah, it's really possible that he is. And one thing that blows my mind about this offensive line, there are 3 interior offensive linemen, meaning the right guard, center, and left guard, are nearly identical sizes. They're, the right guard, Dietrich, is 6'4", 300. The center, Caliendo, 6'4", 300. The left guard, Gideon, 6'3", 300. So very similar size guys here on this offensive line. And one guy that I'm looking forward to have a great year is Borski, the junior, the big tight end, 6'6", 275. He's going to be, I'm looking for him to have a big year as well.
Absolutely. Let's talk about this defense for the Broncos. I think you'll agree with me, Parker, that this offense is probably the more talented side of the football. I mean, I don't think their defense is poor by any means, but I think they're just kind of notorious for having a strong offense in this conference. But they do have a really, really talented secondary. I'm curious what FC and SC means. I should say FC and BC here. Does that mean? I know it's 2 different types of corners, but I don't know if I've ever seen positions classified like that. Is that front corner and back corner, maybe?
Yeah, that's interesting. That I think front and back corner would be my best guess. I've never seen that before.
I've never seen a formation where there's a back corner. I don't know what that means. It's interesting though, but their secondary is really solid. They have Taron Coleman, the senior, 6 foot, 200 pounds. He was only a 2-star recruit out of high school. Wasn't really given a lot of respect out of high school, but went to Pitt, had really solid years, and now he's a grad transfer here at Western Michigan. He's probably going to be their top corner. They also have 2 seniors starting at safety, Bryson Gardner, who went to Pitt as well, 6'1", 190. He was first team All-MAC a season ago with 45 tackles and 4 pass breakups. And then A.J. Thomas, like I mentioned, the senior, who's going to start at free safety. He went to Illinois. So 3 seniors that are all transfers, 2 from Pitt and 1 from Illinois. And I'll tell you what, Parker, I know Pitt and Illinois are not the top teams in the ACC and the Big Ten, but if you're coming to the MAC and you have experience starting in the Big Ten and the ACC, you're one heck of a football player.
You are, and that's going to be huge for a mid-major like the MAC, to where you have transfers from these Power 5 conferences that are great players, and they're going to elevate your program. And the high school students looking for a place to go when they receive offers, they're going to say, hey, this guy came from a Power 5, and look what he's doing on this team. Maybe this is a place that I'd like to go. So it's going to help improve recruiting for sure, and the talent coming into the MAC is unbelievable. I think this is one of my favorite non-Power 5 conferences to watch.
No doubt about it. The defensive line on Western Michigan has a good balance, I think, of experience and talent, where they have the nose guard Ralph Holly, the senior, as well as their one defensive end Ali Fayyad, also a senior. But they also aren't afraid to play some of their talented youth. Braden Fisk, a 6'3", 290-pound sophomore, but he had a really strong season a year ago with 23 tackles and 5.5 tackles for loss. He gets the start over Will McCabe, who is a little bit older and has been on this roster longer. Marshawn Nealand, the redshirt freshman, is going to start at the other defensive end over the sophomore Andre Carter, and as well as the sophomore James Phillips. So I respect Coach Lester. He's obviously got seniors sprinkled throughout this roster, and seniors are important on any football team. But he looks like the kind of guy that's not afraid to play the most talented guy on the team.
No, he certainly isn't. And he's a bigger guy at 6'4", 260. He's their biggest defensive lineman they have is Nealand. So this defense is going to be fun. I think this is more of an offensive minded team, but this defense is certainly going to be fun to watch. And this schedule is not easy by any means. You start the year at Michigan in Ann Arbor, and then you host Illinois State, go to Pitt. Host San Jose State at Buffalo. Then you get 2 home games right in a row, Ball State, Kent State. On the road again to Toledo, host Central Michigan, host Akron, and then you finish up both games on the road, Eastern Michigan and Northern Illinois. So this schedule, especially those first 4 or 5 weeks, are really tough.
It is. And I mean, I'll tell you what, Parker. I mean, I like this Western Michigan team a lot, and I definitely see why a lot of people think this team can win the MAC. I think they can as well. But I don't think it's a super hot take to say that I don't think they're going to beat Michigan at the Big House.
No, I don't think so either. As much crap as Jim Harbaugh gets, I don't think he loses to Western Michigan week 1.
No, I don't think so either. And I'd say a game that I'm really excited for in MAC play is that game against Toledo at the Glass Bowl. Toledo's got one of the tougher places to play in the MAC, and this could end up being a battle of 2 teams that are, duking it out for a trip to the MAC championship game, and I think that'll be a really big one right before Halloween weekend.
Yeah, I think so too. It's going to be a lot of fun to see this Toledo team and how Western Michigan, gives them a good game. That game against Ball State is one I'm looking at as well. All the teams in this conference, I think, are capable of providing good games every week because there's no, like we said earlier, there's no team that really overmatches the other.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Let's move on to the Toledo Rockets. Toledo is led by Jason Candle in his 6th year at head coach. What I'm really excited about with Toledo, Parker, is they bring back 10 starters on offense and all of their starters on defense. So this is going to be an experienced team that has played together quite a bit. This Toledo offense is one of the best in the MAC, if not the best. This team's always high scoring, loves to play shootout kind of caliber games. So their defense is a little inexperienced, but their offense can get it done with anyone. And they'll be led by Carter Bradley, the sophomore, who had 2 starts a season ago and had 9 touchdowns in those 2 starts. So this is a team that can light it up very, very quickly. And that's led by, their really talented receiving core and Devin Maddox, Bryce Mitchell, Isaiah Winstead, and then as well as a really talented receiving tight end in Jamal Turner. So this pass offense for the Toledo Rockets has been really, really good for a few years now, and it might be the best air raid in the MAC.
Yeah, it very could be. Devin Maddox is their smaller slot guy like we talked about. Only 5'9", but the guys I'm really looking for is Bryce Mitchell, the senior. He's going to have a big year, I'm thinking. So, and then you have a guy, as well in Winstead, who's certainly a talented player, the junior. So there's a lot of talent in this receiver room, and especially I'm looking for Carter Bradley to be, really strong, almost as good as he was a year ago. He didn't get a whole lot of playing time last year, but, he made an impressive impression when he did.
He sure did. So we know this Toledo offense is good. Let's talk about the defense. And that's the big key for this Toledo team, Parker. I think with Western Michigan, we saw a roster that had a lot of balance. We saw a roster that had a lot of, good players on both sides of the ball. Toledo has talented players on their defense, but this is an offensive team, and everyone knows that. So the big key for this team is, can their defense step up enough to be to put this team in contention? And it starts, in my opinion, with their top defensive lineman, and that's second team All MAC defensive lineman Jamal Hines, 6'3", 255. He's more of a run stuffer than a pass rusher, but in 22 starts in his career, 101 tackles, 4.5 sacks. This is a guy that knows how to get into the backfield, and he's going to have to really hold down this front seven.
Yeah, yeah, and he's a bigger linebacker at 6'3", 255. And Hines is certainly one of the more talented players on this team. He had 29 tackles, to go along with 2 sacks, and with an interception last year. So Hines is certainly one of their more talented players on this defense. And then of course um, you have Tyson Anderson, the senior as well, 6'2", 210. He's another talented player. He had 34 tackles last year, and then another senior in Samuel Womack. So he had 20 tackles, 7 pass defense on this team, on this defense last year. So this defense, as good as this offense is, I think the defense is more fun.
Yeah, no, it's definitely possible because what interests me about this defense is we know this offense is going to be good. This defense has a lot of intrigue behind it because we don't really know who's going to step up and be the stars. We don't really know who's going to be one of the best, who's going to be one of the top player that really puts this team over the top. A guy that I'm really excited to see is Tyson Anderson, the senior, 6'2", 210, second team All MAC a season ago, 158 tackles in his career in 13 starts. But the best part about him, Parker, is his position on this roster is titled star. So they know he's good because they named him the star of the defense, quite literally.
Yeah, yeah, and you got to live up to it. So, how about a heck of a position name for you? But I think I should play a star at some point. But I loved Tyson Anderson. He's a really talented player. Like we said, had 34 tackles, 1 sack, 3 pass defense last year. He's a solid linebacker here.
He is. Let's look at this schedule, Parker. It's a less heavy conference slate than Western Michigan. Really their only 2 tough games feature a trip to Ball State and a home game against Western Michigan. Other than that, it's not that bad. But they do have a pretty tough game in the non-con. They head to South Bend and take on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, as well as Colorado State at home, who's no pushover as well out of the Mountain West. So I'm sure if Toledo can get to that Ball State game at 2-1, they'll be more than happy. But they're going to get a lot of tests to start the season before they hit MAC play.
Yeah, they are, and those tests come early, like you said. They go week 2 to South Bend. They go week 4 to Muncie to visit the Ball State Cardinals. So there is so many tough tests, especially early on in this one. But the end doesn't get much easier either. You end the season with 2 tough teams. You end in Athens, the second last week, to take on the Ohio Bobcats, and then you have a home game against Akron. So these games don't get easier by any means.
No doubt about it. Let's move on to Ball State, the defending champs in this conference. Ball State had a really good season a year ago. They're led by Mike New in his 6th year. They bring back 10 starters on both sides of the ball as well. And that includes, their starting quarterback, Drew Plitt, heading into his senior season, 6'2", 217. He was second team All MAC a year ago. Parker had 2,200 yards, 17 touchdowns. This is a guy that makes the smart play. He's not the most athletic quarterback in this conference. He doesn't have the best arm in this conference. But it's like we talked about on our tier list yesterday. He doesn't do anything the best, but he does everything really, really well, and that makes him a really solid quarterback.
Yeah, he does, and I love the way Drew Plitt plays. I watched a lot of Ball State football last year, so and they're a fun team. He's not the biggest guy in the world at 6'2", 215, but he's certainly a talented player. Player at their quarterback position. The guy I'm really looking at was I think he was. Yeah, he was Justin Hall, the All MAC first team going into the year. He's a talented player at receiver, 5'9", 186, but he'll burn you. He's got lightning quick speed, so he's certainly a talented player at their wide receiver position. Not the tallest receiver group in this conference, but they have some fun players in this fun receivers on this team as well. And, they have another. Johannes Tyler, the junior, 6'3", 204. He's another talented player for sure as well.
How great of a name is Johannes Tyler?
I know. I was just thinking the same thing.
Oh my goodness. No, there's no doubt about it. I mean, Drew Plitt's a very solid quarterback. Ty Evans, excuse me, is a really solid running back. There's solid players all over this roster. But let's be real, Parker. There's only one guy on this team that's catching NFL attention, and it's Justin Hall. This is the guy that makes Ball State go, and this is the guy. He's probably going to be an NFL slot receiver in a year or two. And I love watching Justin Hall play. He's one of the it's unfortunate because I think he's one of the best kept secrets in college football because he plays in the MAC. I don't think enough people know how good this kid is. He's really, really talented.
He sure is. And taking a look at this defense, there are there's an overabundance of upperclassmen on this defense. Shay, you have only two underclassmen on this defense, and that's Ramsey, the defensive tackle, and then Mims, the redshirt freshman here. Everyone else is a senior or a junior here, and one of the guys that I'm more excited to look for is Brandon Martin.
Yes.
The junior had 90 tackles last year to go along with a sack and a pass defense. So he's certainly one of their talented players. And another guy that I'm looking forward to have a great year is Bryce Cosby, the free safety. He had 62 tackles last year with 5 pass defense. So this defense, as great as this offense can be, I think this defense is going to be a whole lot better.
Yeah, I think this defense has a chance to be really, really good. I'm glad you brought up Brandon Martin. This is, in my opinion, this is the best middle linebacker in the MAC. Still just a junior. Was a 2-star recruit out of high school, Parker. Really just kind of stumbled his way to Ball State. And he had 90 tackles in 8 games last year with 6.5 tackles for loss. This is a guy that just has a knack for finding the guy with the football and bringing him down. And that's exactly what you want out of your middle linebacker. What makes this Ball State defense so dangerous is their linebacker core, Parker. Outside linebacker Christian Albright, senior, second team all-conference last year. He's their best edge rusher with 6 tackles for loss, 31 tackles last season. Jalen Thomas at weak side linebacker, 6'1 senior, was third team all conference, 78 tackles, 5 tackles for loss. You have Martin, who we talked about, and you also have the sub linebacker, Jimmy Daw, who's a junior. He was a 1-star recruit out of high school, but he's 6'3", 240, and in his career, only 3 starts, but even he has 74 tackles and 9 tackles for loss. So this is more of a guy that comes in on second and third downs as a sub, but he still gets the job done. Anybody who Ball State is playing throughout the season, running back, wide receiver, quarterback, whoever has the football, I'd say it's a 90% chance that one of those 4 guys is the one making the tackle.
Yeah, I'm certainly, I'm real positive that that's very true. They run this defense, it's quick, it's tough, and it's really tough to run the ball on. The guys up front, they're not the biggest guys in the world, but they can get after you, if you try to run the ball. So, and then like we talked about a little earlier, this secondary is so much fun to watch. With Cosby, with Anderson, and then Uzdinma is great as well, and then Wahi. But all these guys are so much fun to watch.
And that's what makes this team so dangerous, Parker. This is why they're the defending champs. We just look at their roster. We just talked about it, okay? Solid quarterback. Not the best in the conference, but solid quarterback that makes the plays needed to win football games. Maybe the best wide receiver in the conference who will probably be playing on Sundays in a year, Justin Hall. He's your star player. He's the guy who makes big plays. Solid offensive line with a lot of experience. They have, a senior at left tackle, a senior at center, a senior at right guard, a sophomore at right tackle, and then a sophomore at left guard, but he's a transfer from Michigan State. So he obviously knows how to play the game of football. But this defense, so we talked about the offense, experienced offensive line, star receiver with big play potential, and a solid quarterback that makes plays needed to win. Defense, it's a team with outstanding linebackers, and I'm not just saying for the MAC. This is one of the best linebacker cores out of any team we've talked about all season. And it's going to be extremely hard to get out of the front 7 when you're running the football. And then if you do try to throw the football deep, like you said, Parker, really experienced secondary as well, 3 seniors and a junior, and they're all ball hawks as well. So this team just does not have a lot of weaknesses. They're talented all over the football field. That's why they're defending champs, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if they find themselves back in the MAC title game.
I wouldn't either. Mike New is a heck of a coach, and he's done a fantastic job, in his 6 years here. Hasn't had the best of records, but that changed pretty significantly last year. Only lost 1 game and won a bowl. So this team is certainly talented, and I think they're going to be just as dangerous as they were last year.
And they didn't just win a bowl. They dominated in that bowl game 34-13 against a ranked San Jose State team. So I'm not saying Ball State's going to be ranked, but I'm saying they prove they can win big games against big teams. And I look forward for more of the same this year. They're the third team in a row we've talked about, Parker, that has a tough non-conference game. They head to Happy Valley and take on the Penn State Nittany Lions. And much like with Western Michigan, I think this Ball State team's really talented, and I don't expect them to lose a lot this season. But one of the games I expect them to lose is Penn State on the road. I expect Ohio State to have a dogfight when they go to Happy Valley. And I just don't know if Ball State has a chance, because that's one of the toughest places to play anywhere in the country.
Yeah, it is for sure. And they're going to have their hands full with the Nittany Lions, no doubt about it. Wyoming is not going to be easy either. They have to go to Wyoming, and they're a tough team as well.
They are. Let's a little bit later on, like you said, Wyoming's a tough team. They take on Toledo at home. They also take on Western Michigan on the road. Really, their front half of the schedule is pretty loaded. But if they get through that front half and they're sitting top 2, top 3 in the conference, Parker, they get a pretty favorable back half. Akron, Northern Illinois, Central Michigan, and Buffalo. None of those 4 really considered contenders, more middle of the pack teams. So if they come out of that bye week and they're sitting in the top 3, they might have the best chance of pulling away down the stretch.
It's possible, and they're a talented team, and they're talented enough to beat some of these higher ranked teams. They have. I don't think they're going to beat Penn State, but they can beat an Army. They can beat a Buffalo. They can beat a Western Michigan. They have the talent to do that.
Mm-hmm. They do. Let's move on to the Central Michigan Chippewas. They are going to be led by a new quarterback, Parker, and it's going to be maybe the most, I don't want to say most talented, the most hyped quarterback in this conference. Jacob Sirmon, sophomore, 6'5", 230 pounds. That's a quarterback that you make in a lab, Parker. That's about the perfect size for a quarterback. And he was also the number 7 quarterback in his class. He was a 4-star recruit that played 2 years at Washington, never really got the playing time he wanted. So he transferred to Central Michigan. So he doesn't have the same kind of reputation that guys like Plitt and Crum are going to have right off the bat, just because he hasn't played in this conference. But Jacob Sirmon, there's not many 4-star quarterbacks that end up in the MAC. So this is a guy that has a chance to be a star day one.
Yeah, and he's a mammoth of a guy, 6'5", 230. This guy's going to be really strong here for Central Michigan, and he has. They're a bit of a smaller receiving core, catching the ball here. Pimpleton's 5'9", 175, Sullivan 6'2", 220, and Dallas Dixon is 6'1", 190. So, they're a bit undersized here at wide receiver. So I hope they can figure out, if they have maybe another transfer comes in at some point, or somebody that can give them more size at the receiver position. Of course, they have their tight end Wilson, but as this offense as a whole looks really strong.
Let's move to the defense, as we got to kind of start knocking these out a little bit. We're already halfway through hour number 1, but I love 2 guys that I love on this defense. Another really talented linebacker, their weak side linebacker, Troy Brown, the junior, only played 5 games last year, Parker, but here are the stats. This is crazy. 42 tackles, 4.5 sacks, 3.5 tackles for loss, and a well-deserved first-team All-MAC award. And then, I don't know, this might be the first time all year we talk about special teams, but the redshirt freshman, Luke Elzinga, without a doubt, the best punter in this conference. First-team All-MAC as a true freshman. In 6 starts, he had 33 punts and averaged about 43 per kick, but he pinned 14 inside the 20. So he doesn't have the strongest leg in the world, but this is a guy that can really help Central Michigan win the field position game, and that's important.
Yeah, it is. And who would have thought we'd be talking about a punter in the MAC of
football, baby?
But that's that's what we're doing here. So, but yeah, special team is huge, and especially in a conference that's as competitive as the MAC. Special teams and yardage, every single yard is valuable. So, their special teams, has the chance to be one of the better units in this conference. So, and another aspect of this team I'm looking at is the experience on this defense with, like you talked about, with Troy Brown, with Troy Hairston, with Alonzo McCoy, with Devontae Reed at strong safety, with Bowens and McNary at corner. So many talented and experienced players on this defense.
No doubt about it. Sorry, you caught me mid-sip. Yeah, I totally agree. Experience has been a common theme so far with all the teams we've talked about in the MAC. And it's something we've talked about all summer, Parker. It doesn't matter if you're playing in the MAC or the SEC or the Independents or the Big 12 or whatever. Yes, your most talented football players should play the most minutes and play the most snaps. But at the end of the day, more times than not, the teams that win any conference in college football are the teams that have the most seniors that make the most impact. And I think that's going to be the exact same in the MAC. Whichever team has their seniors step up the most, I think hosts the trophy at the end of the year.
Yeah, and experience, like we're talking about, plays a big factor. And if you have experience, you're going to find yourself in the bowl game more times than not, because experience wins.
It does.
You may have more talent than another receiver or another team, but if you have experience, you've been there before and you know what it takes. So you a lot of time, more often than not, you'll find yourself in the bigger moments, in the bigger games. So this Central Michigan team certainly has experience, and they're going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, Central Michigan, I give a lot of credit to these MAC schools for putting tough teams on their schedule. Jim McElwain, obviously in his third year here after serving as the coach at Colorado State and Florida. But this is the toughest schedule we've seen so far today, Parker. They have Missouri on the road, LSU in Death Valley, Miami on the road, who we'll get to when we get to the East, but they're a solid team as well. Toledo at home, Ohio on the road, Western Michigan on the road, and Ball State on the road. A lot of tough road games in conference play, as well as Missouri and LSU. This is a really tough slate for Central Michigan.
Yeah, it is. And they're going to be tested early. Like you said, at Missouri week number 1, at LSU, FIU's tough, Miami's going to be tough, like you said. And then of course Kent State, Ball State are tough teams as well. So, like you said, not an easy schedule by any means.
We're gonna do. We haven't decided yet. We're gonna do either the Big Ten or the SEC tomorrow to end up the week. But when we do, I'll talk about this more when we do the SEC. But just while I'm thinking about it, Missouri's quarterback, for all of you, Dayton area residents, Missouri's quarterback went to Archbishop Alter, which is in Kettering. Connor Bazelak, really, really talented kid, got his first kind of extended starting time last year. Really solid year. I think he was 4th team All SEC. So I expect a big year from Connor Bazelak. I don't know if the Missouri Tigers are ready to compete for an SEC championship yet, but just, a little bit of local ties here. So if you're a Dayton area football fan, I'm sure you saw plenty of Connor Bazelak when he was winning state championships at Alter, and I'm really excited to watch him play for the Missouri Tigers this year.
I am too. I got to see some highlights and some film on him from Missouri last year, and he looks really talented. So this Central Michigan team certainly has their hands full with the Tigers.
They do. Let's move on to the Eastern Michigan Eagles. One thing I love about the MAC, Parker, is they have Western Michigan, Eastern Michigan, and Central Michigan. So you get your full dose of Michigan in the MAC. Maybe Jim Harbaugh should move to the MAC so we can have all the Michigan teams in one family. But he wouldn't have to lose to Ohio State every year if he joined the MAC. Sorry, made a Buckeye joke. My bad. But eventually Michigan's going to beat Ohio State, and that's going to bite me in the butt. But it's not going to be this year. Eastern Michigan, I like this Eastern Michigan team. They're not quite as experienced as a lot of the teams we've talked about so far, and I think that's what holds them back. Preston Hutchison is going to be their quarterback. He was not really heavily recruited out of college, but in 2 seasons with the Eastern Michigan Eagles as the starting quarterback, 15 touchdowns, only 7 interceptions. He was 4th team all-conference a year ago. I don't know. I'm not 100% convinced he's going to start, though, Parker, because they got the transfer from Cincinnati, Ben Bryant, who was a 3-star recruit out of high school. And he, in 2 starts last year with Desmond Ridder hurt, had 600 yards, 60% completion percentage. This is a guy that I think had a lot of talent. And obviously he couldn't stay at Cincinnati because they have Desmond Ridder, one of the 5 best quarterbacks in college football right now. But I still think he has a lot of talent, and I'm not 100%. I know that Preston Hutchison had a really solid year a year ago. He's probably the favorite just because he knows the offense. But I wouldn't be surprised if, at some point this season we see Ben Bryant as the starting quarterback for the Eagles.
I wouldn't either. Ben Bryant certainly is a really, really talented player. coming from Cincinnati. So, Hutchinson certainly has he's on the hot seat. If he gets hurt or struggles in game action, we'll more than likely see Ben Bryant, get the job here. I don't think Chris Creighton's going to be very patient with his quarterback room.
I don't either. This is a very small receiving room, Parker. Tanner Cano, 5'11", Dylan Drummond, 6 foot, the junior, but they have another really talented slot guy, like a lot of teams in this conference. 5'8", Hassan Bejdouan, second team all conference, and in just 4 starts a season ago, had 500 yards, which tells you, I mean, he was averaging 125 yards a game. I don't care if you're 4'8", if you're putting up 125 yards a game in Division I college football, you can ball.
Yeah, and he certainly has a lot of speed, and he's that's why it makes him the perfect prototypical size for a slot receiver, and that's his role on this team. So you have Beydoun, you have Drummond, and you have Tanner New. So this team is talented, and I'm excited to see what they do. I don't think they're going to have as good of years as your Ball States or your Western Michigans or teams like that, but they're certainly going to have give some teams some tough competition.
Before we move to the defensive side of the ball, I do want to point out right tackle Brian Dooley. He's a sophomore, 6'7", 280 pounds. He was only a 1-star recruit out of college or high school, the number 444 tackle in the country. He's a little undersized at 280 pounds, but 6'7" with good technique. And he's only a sophomore. This guy can put on 20, 30, maybe even 35 pounds, Parker. He might be the next dominant tackle in this conference. I like his build a lot, and I like the way he plays. He just needs to put on a little bit more weight.
Yeah, he does. He's big already as it is. 6'7" is massive, but he needs to put on a little bit more weight. And like you said, to be more of that bigger, just dominant tackle that we're used to seeing now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. The defensive line for this defense is going to be the most experienced piece with Wu Scott, the senior nose tackle, and Teron Rush, the defensive end. How great of a name for a defensive end is Teron Rush? You're an edge rusher with the last name Rush. That's perfect. That's like being, a hitter named Homer Bailey or, a basketball player named Swish or something like that. Like, I mean, you're just destined for greatness when you're an edge rusher named Tyron Rush.
Yeah. That it's certainly, destiny, if you will. So, and then how about the name, the guy right underneath him? His first name is Wu.
Absolutely.
Wu Scott.
And it's not like I'm just judging this dude based on his name. He's also second team all conference and had 5 sacks last year in 6 games. So he also backs it up on the football field. But what I like about this conference, Parker, is a lot of these teams have really good linebackers. There's a lot of competition for some of the best linebackers in this conference. And Eastern Michigan has one too. And Terry Myrick, the senior, he was a 1-star recruit out of high school, but he's really, used that as with a chip on his shoulder in college. With last year in 6 games, 67 tackles, 5.5 tackles for loss. Just another one of these ball hawk guys in the linebacking core. And he's really, made a name for himself from being, I love stories like this. And the MAC is a good place to find them. From going from 1 or 2-star recruit that only got, 1 or 2 offers to play D1 football to second team all conference and, balling out on a weekly basis. And that's exactly what Myrick's done. And he's a really good player and probably the captain of this defense.
Yeah, he is, and I love the way Myrick plays. The 6, he's a smaller linebacker, at 6 foot, and he's a bit of a thinner guy, but the guy plays hard. He's like you said, 67 tackles, 2 pass defense and 1 sack last year for Myrick. He's a talented player, and they have a lot of fun, fun size players, lots of talented players, and fun named players on this defense.
Absolutely. Let's look at their schedule really quick, Parker. Another MAC school that's going to take on a Big Ten team. They head on the road to Madison to take on Wisconsin at Camp Randall. They're also going to have a showdown with Ball State at home, Toledo on the road, as well as Western Michigan at home. The back half of their schedule is pretty tough in the conference, especially after their bye week. And that game at Wisconsin's on the road is pretty tough, but Chris Creighton's a really solid coach, and I think this team has the roster in place to take a step forward this year. I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Eastern Michigan Eagles were going bowling this year.
Yeah, yeah, it's certainly possible, especially this first half is where I think they're going to make most of their money. Um, and that's, St. Francis opening game of the year. Wisconsin, I don't think they will win. If they do, they'll, really surprise me.
They do. They're
UMass,
your favorite to win the MAC.
right. And I think UMass is going to be tough, but I think that's winnable. Texas State is winnable, and IU. Miami's a tough team. Ball State's a tough team. Really that back 6 games is, they're all going to be tough, but I think, almost all of them are winnable.
You said NIU. I thought you said and IU. And I'm like, look, I know we bash on their basketball team, but Tom Allen's got this football team in a good spot. I don't know if Eastern Michigan's going to beat them. No, but yeah, I agree with you. I think there's a lot of winnable games on this slate. And will they win them all? No. But I think there's definitely, a path for them to carve out 6-7 wins this season. And I don't think that's unreasonable for Eastern Michigan expectations. Last team here in the West that we're going to talk about. Oh, I lied. I think maybe. Let me see. I didn't count.
No, you're right.
I'm right. Okay. Ohio is the West or the East. I wanted to make sure that I thought it was 6-6, and it is. But the Northern Illinois Huskies will be the last team that we talk about today. I get that it's not the Eastern Michigan from, when they had Jordan Lynch a few years ago and that really talented offense. But it's really weird for me to think of Northern Illinois as a basement dweller. That program's got so much success in its history. I don't know. They will be led this season by Rocky Lombardi, the transfer from Michigan State. Was not very good at Michigan State in 9 starts, 1,900 yards, a less than 50% completion percentage with more interceptions than touchdowns. It's obviously not ideal, but it's a fresh start for a guy that still has talent, and he's a really athletic kid. He can run quite a bit. He's a good mobile quarterback. He might be the spark that this Northern Illinois offense needs, and it's going to have to be a team that's carried by their offense because this defense, let me count, Parker, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 true freshmen starting on this defense.
Yeah, and it's going to be like you said, really inexperienced defense here for the Huskies. This offense, like you said, is going to have to carry it most of the way. They get Rocky Lombardi from Michigan State to transfer, and then they have some talent up on the offensive line and some big guys too. You got 6'6", 306 is Marquez Cox, the sophomore left tackle. 6'6", 308 Nolan Potter, the sophomore right tackle. So you have some size on this offensive line, but like you said, a very inexperienced defense.
Yeah, and really an inexperienced team as well, where you have 2 freshmen, a freshman at tailback, a freshman at wide receiver, a freshman at left guard. I mean, I'm starting to see why they're not picked to do very well, Parker. And it's not that they don't have talent; it's just that none of these guys have played Division I college football yet.
Right, and with the exception of their quarterback Rocky Lombardi, I don't think anybody else has played Division I football. So they certainly have their a long road in front of them of gaining that experience.
And their schedule is not easy either. They start off these first 3 games are pretty brutal. Georgia Tech on the road, Wyoming at home, and then Michigan in the Big House. I think Maine is winnable. I think Eastern Michigan's also winnable, but then at Toledo, Bowling Green, Central Michigan, Kent State, Ball State, Buffalo, and Western Michigan. There's really only 3 or 4 games in that slate that I would consider good matchups for this team. Most of these teams I consider to be better than Northern Illinois, and it looks like it might just be a rebuilding year for the Huskies.
Yeah, it certainly looks that way. They did not win a game last year in 6 games they played. Thomas Hammock hasn't had the greatest of success here. At Northern Illinois, they were 8-6 in his first year, 5-7 in his 5-7 in his first year, 0-6 last year. So it's been a rough go of it for Northern Illinois, but I think this is going to be another one of those years.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Let's get to the East, the MAC East. We have about 10 minutes left here in hour number 1. We'll probably get through 2 or 3 teams in the East. We'll finish it up to start off hour number 2 before we get into our tier list. But the Ohio Bobcats, Parker. Ohio is led by a redshirt freshman quarterback Curtis Rourke. They also have the senior 6'5" Armani Rogers. It'll be interesting to see who wins that position battle. Rourke was really, really good in limited playing time last year. Rogers has the experience, the transfer from UNLV, but he doesn't have as good as numbers. So I'm intrigued to see who wins this position battle. But a guy that I'm really, really, really excited to see. We've been talking about linebackers all day. We've been talking about, offensive linemen. We enjoy talking about running backs, and we haven't gotten to do it much today. But Ohio's got one of the best in the conference, if not the best, in DeMontre Tuggle. This kid's an absolute stud. 5'10", 200 pounds. A former one-star recruit, junior college transfer. But in his, 2 years at Ohio, over 1,000 yards, averaging about 7 yards a carry, and first-team all-conference. This is a guy that was a hidden gem at the junior college ranks, and then it was given a shot by head coach Tim Albin, Tim Albin, the new head coach, but given a shot by the old regime at OU, and boy, did he pay off. This dude can definitely play MAC football.
Yeah, he can, and he's a lot of fun to watch. He's the preseason ranked #1 back on the first team, so he's a talented player. Like you said, he had 400 yards last year, 6 touchdowns. So I'm excited to see what Tuggle does, really, for this entire offense.
Yeah, me too. Another guy that I really like on this team is the left tackle, senior TJ Jackson. He actually transferred from Virginia Tech. Just wasn't getting the playing time at Va-Tech. But Parker, this is probably the biggest dude we're going to talk about today. 6'6", 377 pounds. Do you know what that's? There's only one player that comes to my mind when I think of that. Well, 2 guys, I should say. One of them, DeBrickashaw Ferguson, who's got maybe the best name in the history of sports. And one of them was a first-round pick by the New York Jets. Everyone said he was too big to play NFL football. He wasn't going to be fast enough, but he was really, really good his rookie year. I'm thinking of Mekhi Becton. This guy's built like Mekhi Becton.
Yeah, he is. And he's a load. Like you said, 6'6", 377. That is massive.
We've seen a lot of left tackles that are big. That is massive, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, I can't fathom. I mean, just standing here thinking about how big of a person that is blowing my mind. And
well, let's put it this way: I'm about an average-sized adult male. I'm 6'2", and I'm about 160 pounds. This man right here is 2.5 of me. That is insane.
It's crazy. I mean, it really is insane how big some guys can get. But so Curtis Rourke has an absolute massive human being, protecting his blind side, and I don't think I would want anybody else protecting my blind side. But certainly this receiving core is talented, an experienced one at that, and then this defense going down here, you have another very balanced looking defense with I believe they have 3 or 4 seniors on this roster, and then really 3 or 4 of each position, or 3 or 4 of each class at each starting position.
Yeah, and what I like about this defense, unlike a lot of the teams we talked about in the West, their linebackers aren't the strength of this defense. They have 2 redshirt freshmen that are going to start at linebacker this year, and Cannon Blauser, another elite name, Cannon, as a linebacker. That's just unbelievably spectacular, and his parents did a great job. And then also Ben Johnson, the freshman, will start as well. But they make up for it. I like their safeties quite a bit. Jaron Hampton at strong and Alvin Floyd at free safety. And their defensive ends are really solid too. Michael Taylor, the junior, 6'2", 260, the transfer out of Villanova. And then Will Evans, who's probably their leader on this defense, the 6'2 senior. And last year in limited time, he dealt with some injuries. Only had 2 games last year, but in his career, 80 tackles and 17 tackles for loss. So this is a guy that knows how to get to the quarterback. But a little bit of inexperience on this Ohio defense. I think it's definitely an offensive-minded team, but there's enough talent on this defense that I think it's an all-around really good football team.
Yeah, it is. And the leading tackler last year was Collier that they had there. So he's a talented player, and he's a lot of fun to watch. And then of course you have Will Evans, the senior defensive end, who's really talented. This defense, like we said, not only balanced with the right amount of experience and new faces, but they have talent for sure.
They do. Let's look at their schedule really quick. They have probably the lightest non-conference out of any team we've seen so far. They take on Syracuse, which is a tough game, but it's not at Wisconsin. It's not at LSU. It's not at Michigan. It's not at Penn State. Syracuse is still going to be a tough team, but not only that, Syracuse is coming to Athens. So that's, I think, out of all the non-conference games we've seen so far, that's the most winnable against a Power 5 school that any of these teams have had. I still think I'd pick Syracuse to win that football game, but I wouldn't be stunned if Ohio won. So they take on Duquesne. They take on Louisiana Lafayette on the road. That'll be a tough game. We still got to do the Sun Belt next week, Parker. That'll be our last. We're going to do either the SEC or the Big Ten tomorrow, and then next week we have to do the Sun Belt, and we have to do the other conference that we didn't do in the Power 5. But I'm excited to talk about the Sun Belt because I love Louisiana Lafayette. They're really, really good. So that'll be a tough team for this Ohio Bobcats team. They take on Northwestern on the road as well and Pat Fitzgerald. But their conference schedule isn't all that bad. They take on Kent State at home, which will be tough. But really, other than having Toledo late in the year, they're probably going to be favored in almost every single conference game this year. So this Ohio Bobcats team has goals of being in the MAC championship game, and I think they have a schedule that can make it happen.
I think so too. Like you said, their tougher games are, Syracuse, at Louisiana, at Akron's going to be they're not a pushover team either.
No.
We'll get to them here in a second, but another team I'm looking at is that game in Chicago against Northwestern. So that is going to be, I think, their toughest game they have.
Absolutely. I'm only going to say this because Parker doesn't know I'm doing this, and I'm just going to let him know. But we're not going to technically take a break here on the recording because I learned now that I don't have to premiere the show and have to kind of guess when we get a break and when we come back. So what I'm going to do is right here at this point in the show, I'm going to hit the pause button and we're going to go to break at WWSU, but I can just leave it right here paused and then we'll press play when we get back from the break. So, hey, welcome back. It's hour number 2. No, I'm kidding. Well, I just feel like we're in a groove right now and I don't want to step away. So let's just keep it going. I'll do the break myself. We'll get it figured out, but we appreciate you hanging out with us. I just wanted to make sure Parker knew what I was doing. So all of you at home that are like, what is he going on about? You don't need to know. It's fine. But let's get into this next team that we're talking about here in the MAC East, the Kent State Golden Flashes. And Parker, this one's not a secret. This team, maybe not as talented on paper as teams like Ohio and Western Michigan and Ball State and teams like that. The reason why this team's a contender is because of Dustin Crum, the 6'3" senior. Last in his career, this was a 3-star recruit out of high school, but in his career, 12 starts, 2,700 yards, 20 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions to go along with 700 rushing yards. This is the best quarterback in the conference. It's really not even that close. And this guy's good enough where even though Kent State's not quite as talented as a team, this is a guy that can without a doubt win this team the MAC.
He for sure is. And he's a lot of fun to watch. He put up, just great numbers last year, even though he didn't have, a whole lot of playing time. But, he still managed to put up 270 yards, last year with 4 touchdowns. So he's a talented player for sure. And I'm excited to see what, like you said, the best quarterback in this conference does. And then they have the true freshman running back Marquez Cooper's 5'6", 185, who's a talented player as well. And then a guy I'm really looking at is on this offensive line, another insanely big human being, and that's the left guard and Adam Gregoire, and that 6'6", 332. And just another insanely big human being.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Yeah. So this team is a lot of fun. They have, really, they're smaller receivers. Their tallest receiver is 6'1", but they have a talented team for sure.
And I'm glad you brought up that tallest receiver because it's Dante Cephas. And I'm excited to see this kid play. I think he could be the star receiver that pairs with Dustin Crum this year because you might be thinking, Parker, I don't know if you are, but I thought right off the bat, the name Cephas sounds familiar. And that's because he's the younger brother of Quintez Cephas, who is a star receiver at Wisconsin and now a wide receiver for the Detroit Lions. So football runs in the Cephas family. And I'm not saying this kid's going to be playing for the Lions in a few years. I think that's putting a lot of pressure on him. But I do know that he comes from a family of really talented football players. And I know he's only a redshirt freshman, but I think he's going to emerge as one of their best receivers year one.
Yeah, I think so too. He's a talented player coming out of high school, and he looks like he can be really good for for Sean Lewis here. So, getting into this defense is they're very balanced age wise, very spread out age wise, but this team is certainly talented. They get back Dean Clark, the linebacker who led the team in tackles last year. They get back Zane West, second on the team in tackles as well. So they return 8 of their defensive starters, and it's going to be a solid group.
It is, and I give a lot of credit to head coach Sean Lewis. He's only 35 years old, actually. But I'm excited because he got 3 guys that are going to make huge impacts on this defense out of the transfer portal. The weak side linebacker Juan Wallace was a 2-year starter at Syracuse, and he's going to be a starter right off the bat with the Golden Flashes. And then also 2 big pieces for the secondary. Elvis Hines, who's going to help out their top corner, Mario Nunez, the senior. He played 3 years at Virginia as well, and he's going to join as a grad transfer. And then the junior transfer, CJ Holmes, who actually played at Penn State before transferring to Kent State. And even his backup, Antoine Richardson, played at Maryland. So great job. Like we saw with Western Michigan, the top teams in this conference are doing a really, really good job of going to the transfer portal, getting guys from Power 5 schools that want more playing time and giving them that playing time. And they really make a big impact in the MAC.
Yeah, they do. And these guys are certainly what these conferences do, especially these bigger schools, is they're looking to add depth because you have guys who graduate, you have guys who get hurt, so you need people to fill in those spots. So depth is probably more important than any other sport, professional or anything like that. I think depth in college football is insanely important. So you need to have guys that can step in and fill roles like that. So I think this defense is very talented. I think as good as this defense is, I think this offense is going to be a really strong group.
I agree. Let's look at the schedule, Parker. This is a tough one. This is one of the tougher ones we've talked about so far. We'll start with the conference schedule. They take on Western Michigan on the road, which will be tough for sure. Central Michigan on the road, which will be tough. And then as well as Ohio and Athens, which is another tough game. But their non-conference is really tough. Texas A&M at Kyle Field, Iowa on the road, as well as Maryland on the road. Maryland, I think that because of Dustin Crum, I think that's a semi-winnable game. I still think Maryland would be favorites, but Iowa and Texas A&M is about as two of the toughest places you could play in the non-conference. I know Iowa's not the same caliber of football team as Texas A&M, but it's still incredibly difficult to go to Iowa City and play the Hawkeyes.
Yeah, it is. Both these teams, they play, like you said, A&M and Iowa within the span of 3 weeks, both on the road. Those are insanely difficult games. Texas A&M is highly regarded as one of the better teams in the country. And Iowa is not a pushover team, out of the Big Ten. So this conference this schedule is fun. It's really tough early on, but I think that middle of the schedule is where I think they're going to find most of their wins.
I'm really excited for that game coming on October 16th, Western Michigan and Kent State. All the teams we've talked about so far, I think the 2 most talented teams in this conference are Western Michigan and Ball State. But Dustin Crum is the best football player in this conference. And Dustin Crum, as long as he's on the field and can throw a football, they can beat any team on the schedule. And so I'm very, very excited to see potentially best team meets best player, because that could be a huge showdown in the middle part of the year.
It could, and we talked about Western Michigan's defense and how great they were. So it's going to be a real test for Crum, to see if he can kind of run, certain things like the 2-minute drill, or how he can, how accurate he is and how he can get the ball to his receivers. So That's going to be a tough test for the Golden Flashes for sure.
Let's stay in the state of Ohio, Parker. It's 3 straight teams here to start the MAC East have come out of the state of Ohio with the Bobcats, the Golden Flashes, and now the Miami Redhawks from Oxford. They're led by the younger brother of Blaine Gabbert, Brett Gabbert, the sophomore, 6'205", in a little bit of limited playing time in his career so far, 11 touchdowns on about 2,400 yards. Last season, though, was much better. 2 starts, 66% completion percentage, 4 touchdowns without a turnover. This guy looks like he's getting better as he matures, which is very common out of college football players. But obviously, I know Blaine Gabbert wasn't a stud in the NFL, but he's still a guy that got to the NFL and he played really meaningful games in the SEC. So another guy like Dante Cephas, I'm not going to compare him to his brother because that's unfair, but this family knows how to play football, and Brett Gabbert seems like he's really finding his own in the MAC.
Yeah, he does, and he looks like he's going to be, a solid player, for Chuck Martin. Yeah, and he has been. He was last year. He was had 384 yards in 3 games. That's doesn't sound like a lot, but that's pretty good, for only 3 games. So this, Gabbert's a talented player for sure. And then you have Jalen Bester, as your back, and he's talented, a very strong player. So he's going to be a smaller scat kind of back, but he's a solid player for sure. And then your receivers are smaller. You have Jack Sorensen at 6 foot even. You have another fantastic name here, Shea, Mac Hippenhammer.
That's my winner for best in the conference. Hippenhammer. You can't beat a Hippenhammer.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That one's fun for sure. He's a 5'11" junior, and then you have the 5'7" junior Jalen Walker, who's more of a slot receiver. But this offense is fun, Shea. It's real fun.
And I mean, we talked about with the Ball State Cardinals. The reason why they're very, very dangerous is because of the combination of Plitt and Justin Hall, who I think is the best receiver in this conference. I think Miami's got a chance to have their own little star duo between quarterback and receiver. I think Gabbert's really starting to become one of the better quarterbacks in this conference, and I love Jack Sorensen. This kid is a great route runner. He's always open, and he makes huge plays for this football team week after week. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we hear the connection Gabbert to Sorensen a lot this year.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
I hope, for the sake of the name, I hope we hear a lot of Gabbert to Hippenhammer too.
Yes, I do. I'm with you. But this, I'm expecting a big year out of Gabbert. He needs to have a big year if he wants to, get some more looks from, more Power Fives or even the NFL. So this team is going to be talented, I think, especially on offense. But this defense is really fun as well. You have their leading tackler Ryan McWood, here coming back, the middle linebacker. He had 34 tackles last year to go along with the sack and and an interception. So he's their best defender by far.
He is, and a guy that I'm really excited to see as well is there's just really solid names all over this roster, Parker. They got a guy that is going to play front cornerback for him, the junior Jadon Rucker Furlow. But that's their best, their best guy in the secondary for sure. And he's great. In 8 games last year, did not allow, only allowed, I believe, 19 completions, which is really, really good. Mike Brown is kind of a rover type player. He's the senior. He plays a little bit of linebacker, a little bit of safety. He does it all for this defense. But there's a lot of experience on this defense. A lot of juniors, a lot of seniors. And even the sophomores have at least a year of starting. So this is a defense that I really expect to be really good. And when you have guys like Gabbert and Sorensen and guys like that on the offense, it could be a really sneaky good football team.
Yeah, it could. And to have guys like, like Cameron Butler, who's a talented player, to have guys like McWood, to have guys like, Rucker Furlow, Weatherford is another strong player. So to have, experienced guys who can get the job done for you, there's nothing more valuable than that, especially with how talented this defense is. And then they have an even better, I think, offense.
Yeah, I like this schedule a lot, Parker. I think, another really, really tough week 1 matchup. They go on the road to take on the UC Bearcats. And I know there's going to be people out there that are like, it's UC. It's not Wisconsin. It's not. UC is a really dang good football team, folks. They were in the top 10 in the country last year, and I expect them to be close to that mark again this year. As long as they have a guy by the name of Desmond Ridder, they are one of the best non-power 5s in college football, if not the best non-power 5 in college football. So that's going to be a really tough game to start their year against the UC Bearcats. They also take on Army, Minnesota, and then on the road, a game that I'm really looking forward to is the game against Ball State right before the bye week, because I look at this Miami team with Gabbert, with Sorensen, with an experienced defense. I think they're slightly behind Ball State, but this Miami roster reminds me a lot of Ball State. So I think that'll be a really interesting matchup between a team that's competing for a championship and a team that's not far behind and is built very similarly.
Yeah, and this team is fun, and, especially with this schedule. The schedule's, it's not the toughest, but it's certainly not the easiest either. Like you said, go on the road at Cincinnati week 1, and then travel up to Minneapolis and take on the Minnesota Gophers. They're so and then you have Army, Ball State, Ohio, and then Kent State to end the year. So this schedule is tough for sure.
It is. Let's move on to the Buffalo Bulls. And no, I'm not talking about the Buffalo Bills. We'll get to them in a little bit as well. But the Buffalo Bulls are led by Maurice Linguist, the brand new coach. He will make his first season at the helm of the Bulls. Another interesting roster development. I really like their receivers. This is one of my favorite receiver groups in the conference, with Giovanni Ruiz, the senior, and Bernard Porter, the sophomore. 2 guys with good size, good speed. They run 2 tight end sets. It's more of a run-heavy team, but they have Cole Burniston, the sophomore, as well as the senior Jake Malinich. But the running back, Kevin Marks, will get a lot of looks. He's a third-team All-MAC back, 6', 205. He's great balance of speed and strength. So Kyle Vantree's their quarterback, more of a game manager. He's not the star quarterback that we've talked about with like Dustin Crum and Brett Gabbert and some of these other guys in this league. He's just kind of a guy that doesn't make mistakes. But if you really want to see what the Buffalo offense can do, Kevin Marks is the guy to look at, because this offense runs through him.
Yeah, it does. And, Marks, of course, is the junior running back at 6', 205. He's a talented player. He's a lot of fun to watch. He has he had 700 yards rushing last year, and that was being the number 2 back on this team. He's behind, 1,000-yard rusher last year with 19 touchdowns. So he's going to come in and fill out the starting role here, and I think he's going to do a very good job with it.
All right, Parker, let's play a game. I hope you know this, but I'd be sad if you didn't. What star NFL player is a graduate from Buffalo?
Oh, no.
Top 10 pick, defensive player of the year. You got this.
Is it Aaron Donald?
Khalil Mack.
Oh, man.
Aaron Donald went to pick. Good guess, though. Khalil Mack. Basically, as soon as he's out of the NFL, I think they're going to change this. It's not going to be Buffalo University anymore. It's going to be Khalil Mack U. Yes, Khalil Mack.
Instead of UB Stadium, they'll just name it Khalil Mack Stadium.
Khalil Mack Field, yeah, basically. He'll probably throw like $10 million their way to build a new stadium. So, but yeah, obviously this team competes in the MAC year after year. But when you have an alum by the name of Khalil Mack, you're doing good things, because Khalil Mack's an absolute stud.
And Mack was a stud in the MAC.
He was so good. He had didn't he have like 22 sacks the year he went pro?
Oh, it was something.
I mean, I get it. There's talented football players in this conference, but Khalil Mack would have been one of the best edge rushers in the country in the SEC. This dude was eating MAC left tackles alive. Yeah.
And it's crazy to think that Khalil Mack played in a MAC school like Buffalo, but he did. So
another example of you can find talent anywhere. And I mean, that's one of my favorite parts about baseball. I mean, we see guys every year drafted from D2, D3, junior college, even signed as undrafted free agents out of random parts all over the globe. And it holds true to the saying that, if you're talented enough, they will find you. You don't have to play baseball at Vanderbilt. You don't have to play football at Clemson. If you play football, if you're a talented little defensive linebacker from Buffalo, you might end up being Defensive Player of the Year in the NFL.
Yeah, it's possible, and like you said, talent comes from anywhere. So just all the more reason to to focus on these mid-major conferences, because you might see somebody that you're going to see in a Super Bowl someday or something like that. So this schedule, it's tougher for sure. It's not easy. You have some really tough games. I think the toughest one of those being Coastal Carolina week 3. Yeah, and that one's going to be insanely tough.
I give you a lot of respect for saying that the Coastal Carolina game is going to be tougher than Nebraska, because I'm 100% with you. And I was completely anticipating you saying their toughest game is going to be at Nebraska, which I wouldn't have argued with, because at Nebraska is tough. But it's good to see the Chanticleers getting some respect.
Yeah,
that's a really good football team.
Respect for respect's due. They were in the top 10 last year, so it's not going to be an easy team.
No, it's not by any means. And they also have some tough conference games, taking Kent State on the road, Western Michigan at home, Ohio at home. That's a 3-week stretch, by the way, 3 straight games against those 3. And then out of their bye week, they still have to go up against Miami and Ball State. So it's a tough schedule for sure. The Akron Zips. We have 2 more teams to get to today in the MAC. The Akron Zips will be the first. Akron is led by the senior Cato Nelson. He was out for the year for 3 seasons with surgery after a bad injury in 2017. Came back for his senior season, but in 26 starts has over 5,000 yards passing, 34 touchdowns. His completion percentage, not the greatest, but he has the yards and the touchdowns to show for it. So the talent's clearly there, and he'll lead this team offense. But another really good running back in Tion Dollard. He was first team All-MAC last year. In 6 starts, almost 700 yards on the ground, which is ridiculous. I don't care what school you go to. If you're averaging over 100 yards a game as a running back, I mean, you're one of the best in college football.
No doubt about it. And Dollard's certainly one of those guys. He's a bigger back at 5'11", 205, but he can certainly get the job done for you. He's quick, he'll run you over, and he's certainly one of the better backs in this conference.
No doubt about it. Because we got to move a little quick, let's move on to the defense. A guy that I'm really looking forward to seeing on this defense is another just top tier name. There's 2 guys on this team that just have unbelievably good names. One, the transfer from Michigan State. He's going to play inside linebacker for this team, Jeslord Boateng. His name is Jeslord. That is great. And then another guy that I love, this is their captain. This is their best player. Really small inside linebacker, 5'9", 205, but he's first team All-MAC. He's a gritty, scrappy football player. 74 tackles and 6 starts last year. Bubba Arslanian. Their starting linebackers are Jeslord and Bubba Arslanian. Are you kidding me?
I can get behind anybody named Bubba.
Absolutely. You're destined for greatness. Just at, Bubba Gump Shrimp. But this defense looks like it's going to be really solid. I think this Akron team could surprise a lot of people. I think they're better than Phil Steele gave them credit for. I think, yes, they have a tough task of going up against teams like, Ohio and Kent State, and who I like a lot. Miami, even, I think is like I said, I think Miami's a step behind Ball State, but they're built very similarly. But I think you could make a really solid argument that Akron has a better season than Buffalo. And I mean, part of me agrees.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle on this one. I do think Akron has the better year, but it's going to be close. And I think Akron has the harder schedule for sure. You have Ohio State, you have Ohio, you have Ball State, you have Auburn. So that's not an easy schedule by any means. But I think they are the better team.
No doubt about it. 3 really tough games in the non-con: Auburn, Temple, and Ohio State. Temple's not a pushover either. But yeah, winning in Columbus is not happening, and winning at Jordan-Hare is also very unlikely to happen. So they're going to come into conference schedule kind of beat up, but it could also prepare them well for games against OU and Miami of Ohio and Ball State and Buffalo and stuff like that. So we'll have to wait and see, but their last 4 games are absolutely brutal, Parker, out of the bye week. Ball State at home, Western Michigan on the road, Kent State at home, and then Toledo on the road. maybe the 4 best teams in this conference back to back to back to back.
Yeah, it's possible. That's one of the toughest slates they have of the year. I think that stretch at the beginning of the year is pretty tough. Those first 2, but that final stretch is definitely their hardest schedule, or the hardest stretch they have throughout this season.
Let's get to Scott Loeffler and the Bowling Green Falcons, the final team we'll talk about today. Bowling Green is led by Matt McDonald. Matt McDonald's their junior quarterback, 6'3", 210. 5 starts a year ago, 700 yards, but only 44% completion percentage, 6 interceptions. This is a guy that's looking to bounce back this season. He was not very good a year ago. This is another run-first offense. They have 2 tight ends in Christian Sims and Andrew Bench. But a guy that I really, really like is their best receiver, Tyrone Broden. He's a redshirt freshman. He doesn't have a ton of experience, but he's 6'4", 185 pounds. And he's a guy that has all the size and all the talent in the world. This is a run-first team, but I wouldn't be surprised if they threw the ball more, because this guy, I think, has the talent to be a top-tier receiver in the MAC.
He does, and he's a lot of fun to watch. This Bowling Green team runs another one of those 2 tight end sets, but it's a fun team for sure. Broden is a talented receiver. You also have Austin Osborne, but Broden's your main guy. He's your bigger 6'4", throw it up and catch it kind of guy, and then of course you have just huge human beings on the offensive line. The right tackle, another really fun name, Alex Walschlager, is he is 6'7", 300, and then you have the right guard Sam Neverov at 6'6", 320. So it's a fun team. I think it's a relatively inexperienced team, but they're going to be good, I think.
Yeah, their left tackle Jeremiah Banks Wall as well. I really hope he's adopted the nickname Jeremiah Brick Wall, because that would be so great for a left tackle. It has to be, right? It's so perfect. There's no way nobody's thought of it. He has to be called Jeremiah Brick Wall.
It has to happen.
It has to happen. But like you said, this is a team that I think is very similar to Northern Illinois in the West. Just a lot of freshmen that are going to be playing this year. A lot of inexperience, a lot of guys that just haven't played D1 college football, and I think that's going to keep them from competing with a lot of the other teams in this conference.
Yeah, I think so too. And they have one of the lighter schedules, in this conference, and they have a couple tough games. Don't get me wrong, but it's one of the more lighter ones. Their non-con is South Alabama, and week 1 they go to Knoxville and take on the Volunteers. And then of course, week 4 they have, up in Minneapolis against Minnesota. So they don't have the easiest non-conference schedule. And, they don't have the easiest schedule period, but there are some winnable ones on here.
Yeah, there are. Yeah. I think this is a team that's in a better spot than Northern Illinois. But just with teams like Ohio, with teams like Kent State, with teams like Miami, even, Buffalo, I just don't think they have the firepower to keep up. I don't think they're bad by any means, but I don't think they're as good as the other teams in their division. So that's kind of where I stand with them.
Yeah, I'm with you. They certainly have some great players on this team. Darren Anders, of course, the linebacker, is their best defender, but they certainly can, do a little bit more to better match up with some of these teams.
All right, Parker, let's get to the, how we always end it, and that's giving our conference predictions. Western Michigan's a really, really good football team, and I think if I had to rank the 4 best football teams in this conference in order, I'm going based on pure talent. I'm going to say Western Michigan, Ball State, Kent State, Toledo. That's my top 4. But Ball State's got the better quarterback. Ball State's got the better star player, and I think Ball State's got more potential as a full defensive unit. So I'm going to go with Ball State to win the West. Western Michigan comes second. Toledo comes third. Central Michigan 4, Eastern Michigan 5, Northern Illinois 6. I agree with Phil Steele on the back half.
So I'm going to take Ball State 1, Western Michigan 2, Central Michigan 3,
I like it.
Toledo 4, Eastern Michigan 5, and IU 6.
I like it. Let's go to the West or the East, excuse me. I'm used to doing the East first, so I keep whatever. But in the East, I think Dustin Crum finds a way to get it done, man. I do. I got Kent State winning the East. I'll go with the Bobcats. No. I really like this Miami Redhawks team. I think they're Ball State light. I'm going to go with the Redhawks to come in second. Ohio comes in third. And then we'll do Akron 4, Buffalo 5, Bowling Green 6. So again, I know I kind of confused everybody doing that, but I'm going Kent State 1, Miami 2, Ohio 3, Akron 4, Buffalo 5, Bowling Green 6.
I'm going to take Kent State 1, Ohio 2, Miami 3, Akron will be 4, Bowling Green 5, Buffalo 6.
All right. I think and so we both have Kent State versus Ball State in our mock MAC championship game. I think Dustin Crum runs away with player of the year in the MAC this year. I think he's by far the best player in this conference. I think he has an unbelievable senior season, and I think he gets Kent State to the MAC title game. But out of all the 12 teams we just discussed today, Parker, Ball State's my favorite. They have very few weaknesses on this roster. Strong defense, best wide receiver in the conference, really talented senior quarterback, really good offensive line as well. Dustin Crum has one heck of a senior season, but if I'm picking right now today, Ball State defends their title and wins the MAC.
Yeah, I'm with you. As good of a year as Dustin Crum, we think he will have. I think Ball State has the better team and the better all-around talent.
I agree. All right, so there you have it. We both pick Ball State over Kent State in the MAC championship game, and that took almost an hour and a half. But I'm okay with that because I want to make sure we hit on every team, and I think we did. So we're not going to, no all gas, no brakes. That's the motto of not just the station, but also this show. So we're not going to, we have about 20 seconds to catch our breath here, but I'm going to go share our screen now to a different page if you're following us on YouTube. And now, Parker, we have a second baseman tier list, and I'm really, really excited for this. I should have asked you before we started recording if there's any guys on this list that we don't know, but let's run through it really quick for everyone at home. Adam Frazier, Brandon Lau, Brendan Rodgers, Cesar Hernandez, David Fletcher, DJ LeMahieu, Dylan Moore, excuse me, that's Dylan Moore. That would be Donovan Solano. That would be Kike Hernandez, Gavin Lux, Jose Altuve, Jazz Chisholm, Jake Cronenworth, Jeff McNeil, Jorge Polanco, Jonathan Scope, Gene Segura, Ketel Marte, Colton Wong, Mike Moustakas, Marcus Simeon, Nico Horner, Nick Madrigal, Nicky Lopez, Nick Solak, Ozzie Albies, Starlin Castro, Tommy Edmond, Tony Kemp, Pat Valleca. Did I miss anybody?
I don't think so.
All right, cool. Who do you want to start with today, Parker?
Let's do an AL team.
All right, let's start with the guy who just got traded, Parker. Nick Madrigal. He's now a Chicago Cub in the Craig Kimbrell deal. He's going to go an average for me. I don't know if he'll end up at the top of average or at the bottom of average. I don't think he'll end up at the bottom of average, but really strong defender, elite bat to ball skills. This is a guy that's going to hit 300 his entire major league career. He just has zero power. He's going to hit 3 or 4 home runs his whole career. Like, this guy has no power. Great contact hitter, great defender, but he's limited in what he can do on a baseball field. And because of that, he's an average for me.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough line to walk with Madrigal because it's the pick your poison kind of deal with Madrigal. Do you go against what modern baseball is, and that's power and launch angle and everything else, or do you want to play the typical old school small ball kind of thing and just hit for contact, which is what Madrigal is really good at.
Right.
So. I think personally, I have to take the latter in that. So I'm going to put Madrigal in average as well. I think he's a talented player, and I like the way he plays with the small ball kind of fit, but he's average.
he's still extremely young too. I think he's like 24 years old. So I mean, this guy could easily be. I think this guy will be in good before his career is over, and he could easily end up an All-Star as well. I mean, Nick Madrigal was the 4th overall pick in the draft for a reason. So this kid's still really, really young and has a ton of potential. So I'm not casting him to average for his whole career. It's just where he's at a year and a half into his big league career.
Right.
Let's move to the AL. I want to get this one out of the way. It's going to be one of the bigger ones we do today. Ozzie Albies. Ozzie Albies just seems to get better and better every single year, Parker. Great defender, unbelievable athlete, switch hitter, home run power, contact from both sides, stolen bases. He's a 5-tool guy. Part of me, I'm a huge Ozzie Albies fan, and part of me wants to put him in Superstar. I can't do it yet. He's getting closer, but I can't do it yet. There's only one guy that I would consider putting in Superstar on today's tier list, and I don't even know if I'm going to put him there. Ozzie Albies is very comfortably in All-Star for me. He's a very, very good player, and he's still young. I think he's like 26. So he's trending up, but I can't put him in Superstar quite yet. Very solidly an All-Star.
Yeah, I can't either. He's, everything you just said is, I completely agree with. He's very talented. The switch hitting is a thing that I love. You don't see it a whole lot anymore, but I love the fact that he's a switch hitter. Unbelievable defender, at second base. He's an all-star, in that same spot. I think he honestly, when this is all said and done, might be at the top of all-star.
It's very possible. I think he's really, really close. And I think before Ozzie Albies' career is over, he will be in Superstar. I just can't put him there quite yet. But like you said, there's still switch hitters in Major League Baseball, but it's more and more common nowadays that switch hitters are really only good from one side of the plate, and they just kind of hold their own on the other side of the plate. Ozzie Albies is a very rare breed where he's got a ton of power batting left-handed, and he hits 300 right-handed. So he's dangerous from both sides of the plate.
He is, and it, kind of like what we just talked about with Madrigal. Do you want to bat lefty where you have all the power, or do you want to bat righty where you need to get on base? Pick one. It doesn't matter. You can do both. So
exactly. And it's not like he's a bad contact hitter left-handed. He has a ton of power, but I still think he hits like 265s. It's like I don't care what pitcher you bring in. I don't care who you're trying to throw in there in a big moment. What I've seen the last 2 or 3 years, I'm betting on Ozzie Albies.
I am too. He's certainly talented.
He is. Let's move back to the American League. Let's do a guy that's had a really good revival of his career. Marcus Semien. Marcus Semien a couple years ago was runner-up for the MVP award in Oakland. And now he's having another really, really good all-star caliber year with the Blue Jays. For the majority of his career, he's probably been good. But because he has 2 MVP caliber seasons, I'm going to put him in all-star. I'm not going to put him over Albies, but I think Marcus Semien's earned that respect. He's made multiple all-star games, and he's a really, really good second baseman, probably top 5 in the league.
He is, and I probably put him here in all-star as well. He's very, well, I don't know. How do I want to say this? Before this year, he was very streaky. He'd go on these streaks of being okay, or not so great. But, of course, had, the MVP caliber year in Oakland. But this year, he's doing stuff that we haven't seen from him in a long time.
No doubt about it. And I guarantee you, I know Toronto kind of took a flyer on him with a 1-year deal. And I know they're going to have to worry about it down the road, extending guys like Vlad Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette and Teoscar Hernandez. The Blue Jays have so much talent that they're going to have to pay. But I don't think it's a stretch to assume that the Blue Jays are going to try to work out a contract extension with Marcus Semien. I think he stays in Toronto.
Yeah, I think he does too. He's too talented, and I think this team needs the depth.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move to the National League. Let's do a guy who I really, really like a lot. And that's going to be a guy that I think doesn't get the credit that he always deserves. Colton Wong. Colton Wong is a Gold Glove caliber second baseman, Parker. Maybe the best second baseman defensively in baseball. His offense has gotten a lot better over the last couple of years. Still about a 270, 280 hitter, but he's gotten a lot more power since he got to Milwaukee this year. Gets on base at a really good clip. He's an all-around solid player. Great defender with an above-average bat now. He's going to be very comfortably and good for me. I can't put him in the same tier as Semien and Albies because he hasn't made an all-star game, but he's a really solid above-average second baseman, and he's going to be very comfortably in good tier.
Yeah, I think he's in good tier for me as well. He had a decent career in St. Louis, but now he's kind of picked up the pace honestly a little bit with the Milwaukee Brewers. So Long is talented, and he's in good tier for me also.
Back to the American League we go. Let's get a guy. Let's get out a guy out of the way that just got traded from the Cleveland Guardians, the Cleveland baseball team, the Cleveland Indians, whatever you want to call them, to the Chicago White Sox, and that's Cesar Hernandez. Cesar Hernandez gets on base at a pretty good clip, has power, switch hitter, which I like, and he's also a strong defender. He's going to be in good tier for me. I'm going to put him over Wong because I think his bat is more valuable than Wong's. I think they've both won Gold Gloves, so I think they're both really strong defenders. Cesar Hernandez, without a doubt, has more power, and I think he offers a little bit more at the plate with that switch hitting. Colton Wong usually has a higher batting average, but I think when it's all said and done, overall, when you consider everything, Cesar Hernandez is the better hitter, and that's why I have him higher.
Yeah, I think Hernandez is the better hitter as well, and you certainly have guys that think defense is more important than offense, but and certain it's fine to an extent, and I probably agree with you, but offense has to mean something of some sort. If you're average on defense but great at offense, I want to have you around, and I think that's what Cesar Hernandez is.
Let's get the Reds guy out of the way, Parker. He hasn't played a lot this year, but Mike Moustakas. I really, really wish Jonathan India was on this list. I know he's a rookie, but I would already put Jonathan India in good tier. I'm not going to lie. He hit another home run tonight. He's got a 418 on base percentage since the first day of June. So good. But Mike Moustakas, another solid player, about a 250 hitter, good power. He's not as bad of a defender at second base as I thought he would be. He's not spectacular, but he makes all the routine plays. I'm going to put him at the end of good. I can't put him over these two guys because I think these two guys are better with the bat than he is defensively, if that makes sense. Moustakas is the best offensive player out of these three guys, but I think these two guys' offense complements their defense better than Moustakas' defense complements his offense. So he's still a good second baseman for me, but I can't put him higher than Wong and Cesar Hernandez.
Yeah, I'm on a kind of a we'll see basis with Moustakas. He hasn't played, like you said, a whole lot this year. I'm going to put him above Madrigal in average.
Okay.
Just because he hasn't played a whole lot, and I haven't seen enough to really give him a whole lot of an opinion. But I think still think he's certainly a talented player. But I just needed to see him play more, to put him any higher than this.
That's very fair. I wanted to give myself more time to think about this, but I also want to get it over with. Jose Altuve and the Houston Astros. This is the one guy I'm thinking about putting in Superstar. But I could also see myself putting him here at the top of All-Star. Second base is one of those positions, Parker, where I don't know if we have a true bona fide superstar. But at the end of the day, he does have an MVP. He does have a world championship. Is it tainted? Yeah, probably. But I still think when it's all said and done, he's the best second baseman in baseball. So I will give him the benefit of the doubt and put him in Superstar.
I'd probably say the same thing. I'm not the biggest Jose Altuve fan. I don't think anybody is unless you're a Houston Astros fan. But, you can't argue with the talent he has. But between him and Albies, I think Albies is the better player. And I would probably put him, higher if Albies had a little bit more success than he does. So I think Altuve's, going to be the one guy that we put here.
You talk about, the best second baseman in baseball right now. I think you talk about, two guys that popped in my head were Altuve and DJ LeMahieu, but those guys are both in their 30s now and on the back half of their career. So I don't think it's a hot take at all. 2 years from now, maybe even next year, I think Ozzie Albies is the best second baseman in baseball.
Oh, it's entirely possible. And I think that's looking more and more likely because he's just a really talented player, especially on the defensive side.
Yeah, he's so good. And he was a top prospect and for good reason. But I mean, he's just got better and better every single year. His power numbers keep going up. His defense stays elite. And I mean, this is a kid that's had sky high expectations since he was 18 years old. And it feels like he's accomplished so much already in the majors. Multiple time All-Star, Gold Glove caliber defender, 25 home runs a year. And I just checked it. I just researched it, looked it up just to make sure. He's 24 years old. He's 24. By the time he's 27, he's going to be the best second baseman in baseball. No doubt about it.
Oh, completely agree. He's one of the more exciting players in today's game. He's a lot of fun to watch, and I really enjoy watching him play, especially when he's hit and switch or going back and forth on defense.
All right, well, let's move on to the National League again. Let's do. I don't know how you feel about this guy, Parker. I know he plays for one of your division rivals, but I think you like. I feel like you like him as a player, Jake Cronenworth.
I like Cronenworth.
You like Cronenworth?
I do. I do. He's a talented player, and he's fun to watch, and especially I like him because he's very versatile.
He is. This, I don't know if you'll agree with this or not, but I'm going to do this. Because of his versatility, he can play first, second, third, short, left field. He's a great hitter. 280. He's got power. He gets on base. He's clutch. He's consistent. He's hitting in the 3-hole for a really good Padres team, and for good reason. He's not better than Albies. He's not better than Simeon yet. But Jake Cronenworth for me is going to go at the end of All-Star.
Yeah, I think he's. Oh man, this is tough for me.
My thought process, I don't know if you're thinking about putting him at the top of good. I think that's what you're thinking. I think he's closer to these two guys than he is to these three. That's my thought process.
Yeah, I understand that. And yeah, I'm with you. I think he's, more comparable to a Ozzy Albies in that Ozzy can play multiple positions also. So he's like Ozzy in that. And I think, he's such a talented hitter. And, you can't argue with that. So he's an all-star, bottom tier all-star for me.
Can you believe the Rays gave him up for freaking, was it Hunter Renfroe or Tommy Pham?
I think it was Renfroe.
Yeah, because they gave up in that Renfroe deal, they gave up Cronenworth and wasn't there another, who's the other piece in that deal? Crap. Was it Pham? Was it Pham and Cronenworth for Renfroe?
Might have been.
God, the Rays don't lose a lot of trades, but that's a tough one. Man. I mean, giving up Pham was bad enough. I don't think anyone, Cronenworth was like a 25-year-old in AAA when they traded him. And he was hitting like 260. I don't think anyone expected Jake Cronenworth to turn into this. I don't even know if Jake Cronenworth expected Jake Cronenworth to turn into this.
Not at all. He's a really talented player, and he's going to be really good for a while.
Yeah, he is. Back to the American League we go. This guy is hard to rank, Parker, because he's so streaky. Brandon Lau. When Brandon Lau is on his game, he is an MVP caliber player, and I would comfortably put him in All-Star when he's on his game. The problem is he's also had moments where he looks like a below average second baseman.
Yeah.
I'm gonna meet him in the middle, and I'm gonna put him in good, and I'm probably gonna put him at the top of good, just because I think what he brings to the table is better than the guys we have in good so far. But this is a guy that I would really, really like to put in All-Star, but he's just not consistent enough for me to do it.
Yeah, and I really like watching him play. I do. He's going to be in a very similar spot. I'd honestly probably put Cesar in front of him.
I wouldn't argue that. Cesar's definitely more consistent. I think I think the decision I made was that Lau still has the higher ceiling, but you're absolutely right in the fact that Lau is just so streaky. Where, I mean, he was hitting like 197 for like the first 2 months of the year this year, and now he's got it back up to 240 because in the last 4 weeks, I think he's hitting like 330 again, and he just keeps hitting bombs. And it's like, oh my lord! Like I see all-star games, I see MVPs in this dude's future if he could play like that for multiple months at a time. And
Yeah,
it's just like he has 2 really good weeks followed by 2 really bad weeks.
yeah, and it's like you said, it's a consistency thing with me. I like the fact that Cesar is more consistent, and he's uh, his numbers may not be as good as Lau when Lau's hot, but I'd rather have the consistency over a hot hitter that's just going to go cold again here in the next week or so.
Me too. Let's go to the back to the National League. Let's talk about the guy who was just traded to the Padres, Adam Frazier. Now, Adam Frazier before this year, Parker would probably go in average, probably at the top of average. But he's had a really good year. He started in the All-Star game. He leads the league in hits, and for that, I think he earned his right. He's a solid defender as well. I think he earned his right to be in good. And I know I just put Lau at the top of good, but I'm going to already change that and put Adam Frazier at the top of good because I think this guy offers the best offense out of anybody in good tier. And he's also a strong enough defender that I don't think it makes a difference between him and Wong and Hernandez. So Adam Frazier was kind of a career average player until this season, but he's had a really, really good year, and it's earned him the bump up to good tier for me.
Yeah, he has, and he's been very talented. Really, especially on the offensive side of the ball, he's hitting the heck out of the ball right now, and he's a lot of fun to watch. So I'm gonna put him in the same spot.
Let's go to. Oh, this is a tough one. Let's go to LA and do David Fletcher. David Fletcher's a lot like Madrigal, man. He never strikes out, and he's so elite at making contact, but he's a singles hitter. He doesn't hit any home runs. He doesn't even hit that many doubles. He's a singles hitter that plays strong defense. I'm going to put him ahead of Madrigal because I do like his versatility. He can play first, he can play third, he can play second, he can even play short. And I think that's valuable. But him and Madrigal are literally the exact same hitter.
Right, and I'd probably give the benefit of the doubt to Fletcher and put him at the bottom of good.
Okay.
I think he's pretty consistent. Like you said, same player offensively, but I like his versatility. So he's going to be in the bottom of good for me.
Okay, that's fair. Let's do another guy that has a lot of versatility and has had a really, really strong year for the Cardinals, Tommy Edman. They let Colton Wong walk because they had faith in Tommy Edman. And Edman's solid. Edman's a really good clutch hitter. He gets a lot of big time hits in the moment. He's a switch hitter, which I like a lot. He's a really good defender. Really good defender. I could see him easily winning a Gold Glove in his career. The problem is he doesn't do anything particularly well offensively. He hits 260, which is fine, but it's not great. And he also doesn't hit a ton of home runs. So he's an average offensive player at best with a strong glove. He's still going to go in good for me. I'm going to put him right ahead of Moustakas because he's a better defender than Moustakas. About the same batting average, but I think Edman's defense outweighs Moustakas' offense. But I definitely think that as of right now, and this could change because Edman's younger, I think that Colton Wong's definitely the better player.
I'm with you. And I think that Wong's more consistent. And he has the hotter bat than Edman. So I really like that. That spot for him. One thing that I think is interesting to me is Tommy Edman looks like he's 12 years old.
He does. He looks like he just got out of the little league, Sunday or Saturday tournament or whatever. It looks like he plays for the 12U Cardinals.
Yeah, no kidding.
Back to the AL we go. I really like this guy, and I really expected him to get traded at the deadline, and he didn't. Jonathan Scope. Scope. is not a great defender anymore. He was never an elite defender, but he was a solid defender in his time in Baltimore. Um, he's had a really good year with the bat. He's great against lefties. Is it enough for me to put him in good? It's tough because I could very easily argue that he's better than Moustakas, but I also think that he's more average than good. I'm going to put him at the top of average, but because I'm doing that, I'm also going to move Moustakas down to average because I don't think in good conscience I can have these two in different tiers.
Yeah, I like Scope. He's a talented player for sure, but he's on the older side. I think both these guys are talented. I'd probably put Scope in front of Moustakas for the time being because Scope's played more and been on the field more. So I'd probably have them both in average as well. Like I said, but Scope is ahead of Moustakas for me.
That's fair. So we just did an AL team. Let's go back to the NL. We'll go to your Dodgers, Parker. I know their second baseman more times than not is usually Chris Taylor, and pretty soon it'll be Trey Turner. But on this list, it's Gavin Lux, and I'll let you take the lead on where you think Gavin Lux should go.
So I don't think Gavin Lux is as great as everybody thinks. I think he's very inconsistent, on the offensive side of the ball. I think he has like, maybe 9 home runs this year or something like that. He's a very inconsistent hitter. Sure, his defense is certainly, it's good. It's nothing to, write home about. So I'm going to put Gavin Lux in average, probably at the top of average.
Okay. And he's still only like 23 years old, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. To the American League we go. Let's do DJ LeMahieu. DJ LeMahieu is probably the best contact hitting. I don't know. Maybe it's Altuve. But DJ LeMahieu's a really good player. He's a great defender. He can play first, second, and third. He has not had the same year this year that he had the last 2 years, but he's still solid. I'm still going to give him the benefit of the doubt and put him in All-Star. It's going to be at the end of All-Star, but I could very easily also put him at the top of good. So it's really close for me, but DJ LeMahieu was an MVP finalist for 2 years in a row, and if this is his down year, it's still a pretty solid year. So I'm going to put him at the end of All-Star.
Yeah, I think he's, certainly a talented second baseman for sure. I mean, he's plays for the New York Yankees and he starts. How much more talented can you get? Because the Yankees aren't just going to throw some, low-level AAA guy in there to start every day. I mean, you're going to have to be good, and LeMahieu is that. So he's a low-level all-star for me as well. Just hasn't been as great, as he has been in previous years.
Yeah. In the National League, next I want to talk about a guy that we both love a lot, Parker. Ketel Marte. Marte is so dang good, but he just does not stay on the field. He's had some injury issues. He's had some inconsistency issues in the past. He's pretty consistent now. But a couple of tough injuries. He's never really had a locked position. He's played some center field. He's played some shortstop. He's played some second base, which tells you how athletic he is, that he can play shortstop, center field, and second base all in the same year. I really want to put him in All-Star, Parker, because I'm a big fan of Ketel Marte, but I can't do that in good conscience. He's going to be the best player that I have in good. Adam Frazier's definitely had the better year this year, but I still think when it's all said and done, Ketel Marte is the better baseball player.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm really debating putting him in All-Star.
It's so close. I really want to do it, but I don't know if I can put him on the same tier as Albies and LeMahieu yet.
I'm gonna do it. Why
Okay.
not? I think he's earned that right to be in that All-Star conversation, and I think I'm gonna put him here at the bottom of it. I understand the inconsistencies with a few different things, and the fact that he's very fragile, but I still think he's a talented player when he is on the field.
No doubt about it. I can't. I mean, I don't argue that. I love Ketel Marte, so I'm not gonna debate you putting him in All Star. So, he's not a Dodger anymore, but you probably know more about him than I do. Kike Hernandez. I'll let you take the lead on this one.
So Kike Hernandez is like the ultimate utility guy. He can play left field. He can play center field. He can play the entire outfield. First, or actually not first, but he can play second, short, and third base. So
He
he's
could
one of the
probably catch
ultimate,
if he needed to.
right? And so he's one of the ultimate utility guy, and I'm going to put him in good. I'd probably put him. I'd probably put him ahead of Wong, but behind Cesar.
Okay.
I think I think Wong's the more the better hitter, the more consistent hitter. But I just like the way that Kike's, he's a strong defender anywhere on the field.
Yeah, that's very true. Uh National League we go. Donovan Solano. Donovan Solano is a really good hitter. This guy has hit 300 his whole career, but he's not a great defender, and that's why he's been kind of relegated to just a pinch hitter role with the Giants. So I'm going to put him in average because I think his bat is still really, really good. But he's going to be behind guys like Fletcher and Madrigal because even though he hits a few more doubles and a few more home runs than these two guys, their defense allows them to be in the lineup every day, where Solano is kind of more of a pinch hitter type.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. I think Solano is certainly, isn't as great as he was. That pinch hitter role, I think, is perfect for him because he's not playing every day, and where he could be hurting the Giants, statistically, but he's still providing what he can in the best way that he can.
Right. Nicky Lopez. Nicky Lopez has a lot of potential. Really quick guy, steals a lot of bases, strong defender, and he's actually got some sneaky good power. Uh, the problem is his bat is really inconsistent, and the problem is he's really inconsistent. So for now, he still goes in below average. For me, I could easily see him ending up in good. I think he'll definitely end up in average. But as of right now, even though he's a strong defender and he steals bases, 220, 230 just isn't cutting it for me, even if you do hit 10, 15 home runs over the course of the year.
Right. It's not cutting it for me either. I think like he has a lot of potential. Very quick. Quick on the bases, quick. To the bag. But I just think he needs to really work on his offensive capabilities.
Let's go with another guy that I rate very similarly to Nicky Lopez, Nico Horner with the Chicago Cubs. Horner is very similar. I think he has a slightly better bat, but he doesn't have as much power as Lopez. Still a really good defender. He's played a little bit of. He's actually playing shortstop for the Cubs now that they traded Javi Baez. But he's normally a second baseman. Very quick as well. Probably doesn't steal as many bases as Lopez, but can steal bases. Because Horner's bat's a little more polished than Lopez's, he's actually going to go an average for me, and he's going to go right here. I like Nico Horner. And with a little bit more consistency, I think he could easily make his way up to, the Lux Mustakis kind of tier of average. But as of right now, he barely sneaks into average. But him and Lopez, very similar players. I just think Nico Horner's a little bit more major league ready.
Yeah, and I think he's a little bit more of a consistent guy, you know than the other guys. So I think he's a talented player. He's been really quietly great with the Cubs. The Cubs aren't a great team. We all know that. And but I do think he's more consistent than Solano is. He's a very talented player on the bases. And I think he hit like 3 home runs in a game or something like that a few weeks back. But he's a talented player. He's an average for me also.
Yeah, he's pretty solid. Let's do Dylan Moore. Let's keep it on the topic of young, talented second baseman. I like Dylan Moore. He's versatile. He can play second, third, left, right. He could probably play short if he needed to. He's got a really good bat. He's really good against lefties. I think he hits like 320 with like 6 home runs against lefties this year. He's not great against righties, but he's still good enough to play every day. He's also a really good athlete. He's definitely better than Lopez. I'm going to put him in between Solano and Horner. I think Horner offers a little bit more day to day than Dylan Moore, as much as I like Dylan Moore. But Dylan Moore is a really, really solid player.
Yeah, he is. I think, like you said, Horner. is a little bit more, capable of, doing a few different things, but Dylan Moore's certainly talented, and another one of these guys that are on the rise.
Yeah. Final guy we're gonna do before we take a really like I said, we're not gonna take a break here in our recording, but I'm gonna pause for a few more seconds just so we can take another break. At WWSU, we're gonna probably go till about 3:15 today, just so we can finish this tier list. I will update the schedule accordingly. But I want to do Jazz Chisholm. Jazz is really fun to watch, Parker. He's got pop, he's got speed, he's a great defensive second baseman / shortstop. His average isn't elite yet. He hits like 260, 270. He'll get there. I think down the road, this guy could hit 290, 20, 25 bombs, 20, 25 stolen bases, and play gold glove caliber defense. I like this kid a lot. I'm not going to put him over guys like Wong and Kike because I think they earned the respect of, the resume. But I'm going to put him ahead of Edman. I think he offers more than Tommy Edman, and I know he's still really young. But what I've seen from Jazz Chisholm, he's already in good tier for me. He's really solid.
Yeah, I'm going to put him probably in the same spot. He's a talented player. I love watching Jazz Chisholm. He's a really great defender, and he's not the worst hitter in the world. So he's certainly doing some great things in Miami, and he's going to be in the same spot for me.
All right. Well, we're going to pause here for a few seconds so I go to break in the station, but all right. Okay, we're good. There we go. Yeah, a little loophole we found over the last couple of days. But all right, finishing this tier list here. We still have a few more names on this list, 8 to be exact. So we'll probably go about 10 minutes over today, which I'm fine with. And there's no shows right after us, so they're going to be fine with it too. So Jorge Polanco, Minnesota Twins. This guy just hit a 3-run bomb to beat the Reds last night. Thanks, Heath Hembry. But Jorge Polanco's a switch hitter. Good power, good defender. Not a good defender at shortstop, but a good defender at second base. That's why they moved him there. He's pretty athletic. He's definitely a poor man's Albies. I'd say he's even like a poor man's Marte too. I still think I can. Here's what I'm going to do, Parker, because I want to put him above Edman, but I also want him to be at the end of good. So I'm going to put him there, and I'm going to move Edman down to the top of average.
Okay. This one's tough for me. I don't know, man. I think I'm gonna put it. I'd probably flip flop what you did. Top of average, Edmund with at the bottom of good.
Okay.
I certainly think he's talented, but I just think he's not consistent enough for me.
That's fair. In the National League, I want to do Jeff McNeil. Jeff McNeil is so good. He can play outfield, left field, right field. He can play second base. He can play third base. He's going to go here. He's definitely an all-star tier. I think he's swinging a hotter bat than LeMahieu right now. But I'm keeping him behind Cronenworth because I think Cronenworth is, 1, a better defender, and 2, also plays more positions defensively.
Okay. I don't think that I can put McNeil in front of Marte.
Okay.
So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna I put Marte in. So I'm gonna put McNeil at the top of good.
Okay.
I had Marte at the bottom all-star, but McNeil is gonna be at the top of good for me.
Okay. That's fair. Ketel Marte is obviously a stud. So we have 3 more American League and 3 more National League. Pat Valaika. Pat Valaika has actually not been terrible with the Orioles. I think he's hitting like 250. He's a versatile dude. He can play second, short, third, first. Probably could play the outfield. They just don't need him to. But This is a 29-year-old guy that's been a utility guy most of his career. So he's got to go in below average for me, and I can't put him over Lopez because even though Lopez isn't hitting the ball as well as Valleca right now, Lopez is 24 years old. Lopez is going to get better. I just don't know if Pat Valleca is going to get any better.
Yeah, it's tough. I think Lopez certainly has the opportunity to be really good and the potential to be really good. It's just kind of a wait and see deal and see what happens.
It is. Gene Segura. Gene Segura is tough because he's maybe the most consistent hitter I've ever seen in my life. Every single year, Gene Segura ends the season hitting 280, 290, and that tells you he's a good hitter, right? But every time I watch the Phillies play or when I watch the Mariners play, when he was in Seattle, this dude goes 0 for 3 or 0 for 4 every single freaking night. I don't get it. How does he end the year at 290? I don't know. But he's an average defender. He's an above average contact hitter with a little bit of power. So I definitely think I'll probably put him here. I think he's proven more than guys like Lux and Fletcher and Madrigal. And I think he's a better defender than guys like Scope and Moustakis. But I think Edman is one, more versatile, and two, the switch hitter really keeps him above Segura for me. So Segura, if there was an above average tier, I think Edman and Segura would be in that for me. But Segura's a really solid shortstop. He's just not by any means the best.
No, I'm with you. I think he's, like you said, somehow makes it to 290, 295 every year. But he's a talented player for sure. He's not, the worst defender in the world. He's pretty consistent defensively, and he's not the worst hitter either. So I think he's, pretty consistent in both aspects.
No doubt. Okay, Nick Solak. Nick Solak has a really good bat, especially against lefties, and he's a solid defender. Not spectacular. The thing is, Solak, out of all the rookies on this list, is probably the best overall hitter. A lot of doubles, a lot of home runs, extra base hit machine, and still hits about a 280 clip. So I'm going to put him as the best young second baseman on this list other than Lux. I'm going to have him over Fletcher, over Madrigal, over Horner, over Moore, because I think he plays stronger defense than Moore. I think he is a more lethal bat than Fletcher and Madrigal, and I think he's more consistent than Horner at this point. So for me, Nick Solak's my favorite out of these 5 young guys.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think, personally, my favorite out of those guys is Madrigal because he's just, he's a lot of fun to watch. But, Solak is certainly really good, and he's like you said, he's certainly the best hitter out of all 5 of these guys. And I think he's gonna, he's gonna become one of the league stars here in the next few years.
I think so too. Starlin Castro. I'm not going to go into detail about what just happened to Starlin Castro off the field, but. He was technically the starting second baseman for the Washington Nationals until about a week ago. He's a lot like Solano at this point in his career, Parker. He's just not a good defender. He can still hit, especially against lefties. Not a good defender. I think he's hitting like 270 or so this year. He's still got some pop. I'm going to actually put him ahead of Solano because I still think, unlike Solano, he can start and get away with it. And he's got a little bit more power than Donovan Solano, but very similar hitters at this point in their career. More serviceable as backup infielders that pinch hit and not starters.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting, line you have to walk with that is, when to, decide that those guys have hit that point of their their career, or they just don't have the talent level to make it to that starting, everyday second baseman. So I think this is a really good spot for him. I think he's, a talented player, but he just I don't think doesn't have enough talent for me to kind of put him any higher than this.
I'm with you. Tony Kemp with the Oakland A's. Parker, for the life of me, I can't understand why Tony Kemp's in Major League Baseball. 5'8", not insanely fast. He's got decent speed, not insanely fast. Not a great hitter. It's about 240. Doesn't have a ton of pop. Why is he in the league? But he makes it work. He plays second base. He plays left field, right field. He can even play a little bit of center field. Bob Melvin loves this kid. And this has by far been the best year of his career. He's hitting 270. I think he has 8 or 9 home runs. He's going to be probably here, bottom of average. He does play every day, and he's a good defender, so I will put him over Castro and Solano. But even though he's having the best year of his career, any of these 5 guys I'd take over Tony Kemp.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about it. I think Tony Kemp's, it's like what you said. It's confusing. It's I don't know what he's doing.
How is a 5'8" guy with no power and decent speed in the majors? I don't know.
So, I don't either, but somehow he's getting it done. I think think that Solak, Fletcher, Madrigal, Warner, more these guys are better than Kemp. So he's going to be in this spot, but he's pretty has some decent contact, but no power, can get down the bases okay, but other than that, he doesn't have a whole lot going for him here.
Yeah, and then the final player we have today on our tier list is Brendan Rodgers. And this is one of the harder ones for me, Parker, because this is a former top 10 pick in the draft. Really, really highly touted prospect was this kid. He's just a really good player. Or he was, he had a lot of, hype surrounding him as to be a really good player. He was horrible his first 2 years in the majors. Hit 180, not a lot of power, inconsistent with the bat. And even his defense took a step back when he got to the majors. But this year, 270 average, 9 home runs, OPS over 800, and he's played really good defense. He's starting to figure it out. And yes, part of that's probably playing in Coors Field. I'm not going to overreact, and I'm going to put him right here at the end of these 5 guys, because these 5 guys have definitely all been more consistent than Brendan Rodgers. But this year, for the first time in the 3 years since he's been in the majors, he's still only 24 years old, but this stretch of the last 3 months or so has been the first time that I've watched Brendan Rodgers play baseball and I say, look, I get it. Now I see why he was a top 10 pick. He does have something in there that he can unlock, and he's starting to unlock it. So this could be a guy that's on the rise for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He's a talented player. I like watching him play. I like him because he's different. He doesn't utilize the typical launch angle. He's more of a contact small ball guy, I think. So I like that about him. And he, like you said, hasn't been able to unlock that full potential, but I think it's starting to come out more and more.
I agree. All right, well, that does it for our tier list of MLB second basemen today on this Wednesday. We did go about 15 minutes or so over, but there's no harm in 1 to 3:15. So we appreciate you hanging out with us here on this Wednesday afternoon. One final show this week. We'll be doing it tomorrow. Here, before we go today, Parker, we'll let them know what we're doing here live on air. You want to do Big Ten or SEC? They're both going to be so fun.
Let's do SEC. Save Big Ten for last.
All right. We'll do the SEC tomorrow. We'll do the Big Ten next week on our last week. So I don't want to say next Friday. I don't know what we're going to do on our last show. But we'll do the Big Ten at some point next week along with the Sun Belt, which are the last 2 conferences we have to do. We'll also have our fantasy football mock draft. We'll also probably have a tier list or 2. So the last week of the show is going to be a freaking blast. But we'll do the SEC tomorrow, which will definitely take an hour, maybe even an hour and a half, because Lord knows if I can talk for an hour and a half about the MAC, I can talk for 2.5 hours about the SEC.
Yeah, it might take a full show. Who knows? But it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. Next week's going to be a blast.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you hanging out with us here on this Wednesday afternoon, wherever you may be, whether it's on our YouTube or on WWSU 106.9 FM. Wish Parker and I luck. We'll talk about it a little bit more tomorrow, but Parker and I are heading to Take Flight, which is Wright State University's leadership retreat this weekend, and we're both on the same team, and we are going to bring home the gold for WWSU. So everyone, if you're a fan of the show, I want you to tweet #RedTeamRules, and we'll know exactly what you mean. So go Red Team, and we'll make sure to show off the hardware next week on the show. But Parker, any closing thoughts on this Wednesday?
Yeah, just excited for Take Flight this, coming up this weekend. If you tweet us, don't forget to add us, so we'll appreciate your support. And I know some of the people going to Take Flight listen to this show, so just prepare yourselves if you're not on the red team for disappointment.
Everyone who's on our team, I mean, Jeremy sent out the email. Everyone who's on the red team will be your best friends these 3 days. But everyone who's not on the red team, it's fair game. Like, you're going down, no doubt about it.
Yes.
And
yes.
I'll tell you what, Parker. I'm not telling people this because I want it to be a surprise. But there's a special guest that I have lined up to make a surprise appearance on Saturday night at Take Flight. And this is why Jeremy should let me host the talent show, because I can arrange special guests like this. But gonna totally elevate Take Flight to a new level that it's never seen before. This has never been done before. It's a guest that's gonna get everyone all hyped up. And I know that this guest also has a WWSU t-shirt, and I will make sure that they wear it so that we can show off the org, because the host has to have a little bit of fun too, right?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I'm very interested to see who this special guest might be.
Yeah, and that's the way we want it. I want everyone at this Take Flight to be wondering for the entire 2 days leading up to it who the heck I'm bringing out there, because I think that's going to make it even better. But ton of fun today. One more show this week, 6 more shows this summer, and then you can also hang out with Parker and I throughout the school year on The Perspective and on the Horizon. So we're not going anywhere. We're just not going to be doing a daily show together anymore. We'll still do plenty of content together. I'm sure we'll be on the Raider Sports podcast. I'm sure we'll obviously do broadcasts together. Parker and I will still find ways to talk sports together throughout the school year. But as fun as this show has been, I do not have time in the day to do a 3-hour daily show with scheduling topics and recording. And I can't do that every day. Not during the school year.
Oh, it wouldn't be easy.
It would not end well for me trying to get my degree.
Yeah, not at all.
But yeah, no, we appreciate you hanging out with us. We will see you tomorrow. 6 more shows to go. 1 more this week. I'm going to the Reds game tomorrow night, so I'm sure I'll be in either a really good mood or a really bad mood. There's no in between. But thank you so much for hanging out with us all summer long. For Parker back in Noblesville, I'm Shea Neal saying so long and keep it real. We will see you tomorrow. SEC Thursday, baby. Get hype.